But boom, and we're back. Derek Hackman is the singer of The Breaking Pattern. He is a podcaster in his own right, and he runs the Wine Wednesday show where he talks to local artists and drinks wine with them. And he brought a bottle of wine over, and we cracked it open, and we went deep, man. This is a good one. This is a really deep one. We went far into the spectrum of emotion and depth and religion and natural selection and genetics and all kinds of crazy shit. We went really far down the rabbit hole on this one and had a wonderful time. Derek is an absolutely wonderful, beautiful human being. And yeah, that's it, man. Have a great one. I really hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the show. As always, I am Matt Slusser. With me today, I have the wonderful Derek Hackman.
Hello, hello.
Of The Breaking Pattern and Wine Wednesday. We're doing a double podcast today.
Yes, we are. Double feature.
So yeah, man. What are we drinking?
Cheers.
Cheers. First of all, we'll do a cheers, and then tell me what we're drinking.
We're drinking a Shiraz. This is called Sideshow. I think it's only like $8, so
nice.
it's on the cheaper end of it. Even though I was gonna lie to you and say it was like $100. And I drank this one on one of my episodes that I did with Dimitri Brown. You know Dimitri?
Of course, yeah.
And I just really love this wine, so I brought it back just for you.
That's awesome. I like it. It's definitely good. I'm not a huge wine guy. I'm really into craft beer, but okay. So what's the thing? Does wine legitimately is it one of those things where are you one of the people who can? I taste undertones of musk and wood.
I really wish I was one of those people. And don't get me wrong, I've actually done wine tasting and I've done all that stuff, but I never cared enough.
Yeah.
Even with music, I can have really strong opinions on it, but at the same time, I never had music lessons or anything like that. I just know what I enjoy.
Totally.
And for wine, it's the same thing. I can't sit there and pick it apart necessarily, but I can tell you if I enjoy something.
Yeah, for sure.
And so no, I have, and I've actually had guests on the show that are really knowledgeable about wine. But for me, as long as it's under $20 and tasty, then I'm happy with it.
Yeah, just good wine to you is just wine that tastes good.
I will say I drink fancy whiskeys though.
Oh really?
Yeah.
What's a fancy whiskey?
Okay, maybe not that fancy. If I'm at a bar, I'll get Bullet or Maker's Mark because I'm not drinking
once asked. It's oh well. I'm.
No, I'll drink Glenfiddich and Glenfiddich is really probably my favorite of the expensive whiskeys.
I really like Maker's Mark for sure. You mentioned Maker's Mark.
Yeah, that's my go. So I won't drink well whiskey or anything like that, but I'll drink bottom shelf wine any day.
Got it.
Give me the box stuff.
Yeah, no, that stuff is super good for me. I had the Tennessee Fire once, and my stomach literally I had to curl up in the fetal position because it felt like my insides were on fire, and that's why I don't do Fireball either.
Right, and which is what I'm saying. You can drink cheap wine and you're gonna be all right at the end of the night. Yeah. But you drink cheap whiskey and you're you just don't feel good, man.
Yeah, man, it's rough. I'm starting to really venture into craft beer, and that's an expensive venture as well. When I first started drinking beer, I was oh man, I can get a 30-pack of Pabst for $7, and now it's I get a 6-pack for $11.99. This stuff.
Well, I used to be a beer drinker, a more hard liquor drinker. I was definitely more into the manlier liquors or drinks and alcohol. Bourbons, yeah. I was into that kind of stuff. First I started drinking way before the age of 21. So no one take that.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
No, any young children don't listen.
Yeah.
But
all of your young children listeners.
All of my young children listeners, don't take my. But anyways, we would drink the most broke ass shit. When I was in college, same thing. We were all so poor. So it was just PBR. But then I turned 21, and I'm oh, I can buy whatever I want, and I got a little bit of money. So and I drink real beer, and all of a sudden the world is whoa. It's oh, this is what it's supposed to taste like.
Dude, I lost my taste for PBR mid-can. I was drinking it for a little while and getting made fun of incessantly. I would take it over my girlfriend's parents are real beer. They're the ones who got me into drinking beer. They're real beer aficionados.
Yeah.
And I remember I took Pabst over there, and every single person because it was a family gathering, every single person, aunt, uncle, cousin, mom, dad, every grandma opens the fridge and goes, "Who the fuck's drinking Pabst?" And oh god, it was so embarrassing. And then
when the grandma's making fun of your drinking choices is when you know you gotta graduate.
Oh man. So then I was sitting there drinking it, and one sip it was fine, and then the next sip I was like, ugh, I don't like this anymore, and I haven't drinking Pabst ever since.
Yeah, I mean, beggars can't be choosers sometimes. So I mean, I'll drink what's in front of me. But the other thing for me, and a big reason why I switched to wine, besides the fact that it's tasty and delicious and pairs well with poetry and all the other
pairs well with poetry and alliteration
and all the bullshitty things that I love. I had like stomach issues that happened right around the age of like 21 or 22. I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, so I was like basically just bleeding out of my asshole profusely. And so I went to a doctor and I got medicine and I fixed all that. And it was just like one of the doctors never really gave me necessarily a specific reasoning for why I have it. You know, I have like all these theories about how like as a 90s kid, we're just like poisoned by some crazy food, you know. And you watch Joe Rogan, dude. Literally, he's got like a different person on every week. Like, it's the gluten, no, it's the sugar, no, it's and like every week, and they're like last week was like, try a bunch of stem cells, just shoot it right up your a-hole, and you're gonna feel fucking amazing.
And then you've got what's his name, Alex Jones on there, and be like, it's Hillary Clinton.
It's Hillary Clinton. Poison our water supply. So like literally like everyone's got a theory for why everyone in our generation is sick with autoimmune disorders.
Yeah.
I don't blame alcohol at all, but I do know that after a night of a lot of whiskey, my stomach doesn't like it. But I can drink bottles of wine and be okay. So for whatever reason, it's wine was softer on my stomach, and I ended up just having to make my alcoholism very specific.
Yeah, no, dude, that's really great. I mean, see, I drank this really, really heavy. When it comes to beer, the hoppier the better. I just like really
you love
IPAs and pale ales and hop. Like anything with hop in the name is always like a 4.5 out of 5 stars for me. Like,
I brought the wrong stuff.
No,
I should have brought you a good beer.
No. So the thing is, I was drinking one the other day, and that next day at work, I felt awful and bloated and gross all day. And then I was like, oh, maybe it was something that I ate. But then I drank that night again. And I went to work and the exact same thing. And then today, for the most part, I didn't drink last night. And today, for the most part, I was fine. And I'm really just hoping, like I'm in denial. I mean, no, it wasn't the beer. It was the beer.
No, I mean, and that's the other thing. Like, I would get drunk off beer, and it would just be like a loaf of bread just chilling in my stomach, man, because it's just like so weedy and whatnot. And so I just like realized I couldn't really drink excessively with beer. Like I can enjoy a beer, and like if I get a burger, and I had like, or I went on a hike or whatever. Like, damn right, I'm getting a beer. Like, there's still times where I'm like, of course I'm going to drink a beer. Or there's times where I'm like, if I'm just chilling with friends, like, of course I'm going to have a glass of whiskey right now.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just know that I can't drink either of those two items excessively. Not that I'm on Wine Wednesday chugging bottles of wine by any means, but, like, when I'm casually drinking, I prefer a wine. But, you know, I go out to a bar and I feel like a pansy ordering wine, so I usually switch it up.
You mentioned being into poetry and a second ago, and I want to talk about that for a second because I know nothing about the poetry scene in Phoenix. Like I know a little bit of poetry, but like as anybody does, like I can squeeze in a fucking wife beating Charles Bukowski joke here or there, like, you know. But like aside from that,
person,
yeah, I know, but
brilliant, but shitty.
Aside from like little quips that I have, like I don't really know a whole lot about, especially the scene here in Phoenix. Like, what is that? Is there a poetry scene here?
Oh,
in Phoenix?
definitely, yeah. I used to do slam poetry over at Lawn Gnome before they shut it down.
Oh, man, I played some shows at Lawn Gnome.
Yeah.
Second show I ever played with Phantom Party was at Lawn Gnome, yeah.
Did you know the dudes in, what's the band, Red Tank, I think?
I don't know them, but we've played shows with them, but I don't know them personally.
Yeah, okay. I just figured because I feel like y'all's bands might be in similar scenes because I think they play Lawn Gnome. But one of the very first slams I ever did, I went up against, like, I think it was like the singer of Red Tank was... Me and him were in a slam competition with each other. My last girlfriend, actually, me and her met at a poetry slam competition, tied second, and that's how we met. We both got second place to this like super handsome British dude who crushed us all. Dude,
when we played Lawn Gnome, there was this poet there. I don't remember his name, but he was one of those guys who I'm sure you've seen 1,000 times. Who just like he just kind of gives you an ear beating, and he's real crazy and not self-aware at all that he's like, giving everybody an ear beating. So he does, and actually his poetry wasn't that bad. And then when we got off stage and he gets off stage, he comes up and he's complimenting us, and he just like will not let us walk away. Like it's one of those situations
really?
where you have to find your way. So luckily it was the three of us.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I have to go to the car. So I just abandoned my friends and I went away. And then Josh, the singer in my band, ended up doing the exact same thing to the drummer. So Austin was stuck talking to this guy at Lawn Gnome for so long because he's way more polite than we are, and he was just listening to it just like all night.
Dude,
that's my Lawn Gnome memory.
The line between poet and just crazy rambling hobo prophet is a very thin line, man. Some days you don't know which part of that line you're on.
So Lawn Gnome is one of the places that you used to perform at, right?
Yeah, and I think they recently started up again.
Really? They're back?
Yeah. Don't take my word for it.
Okay, I don't want to take your word for it.
But I definitely saw they were doing poetry shows again recently. But yeah, then I heard they're closing down. So I wasn't sure if that was like their last ditch effort or what.
I know some people who work over there. I'll have to ask them.
Yeah, but we have some pretty great poets. Joy Young's a great poet. Anthony Conley is a great poet. Joy Young was on a couple Button Poetry. You know Button Poetry, the channel?
Yeah, fuck, dude. I've seen some amazing stuff on Button Poetry.
Yeah, she got on Button a couple times. And then I'm trying to remember some of the bigger names in our scene. They're all kind of I'm kind of spacing it right now.
That's cool.
But we definitely have a couple big name poets. Tucson has actually the world's biggest poetry library.
Really?
If you didn't know that. So,
I did not know that.
And if you're wondering how big it is, it's not very big. So I don't think there's a whole lot of poetry libraries in this world.
Yeah, no, I don't think there is either.
But it's a pretty awesome place. And I actually studied poetry down at U of A, which is kind of where I got into it. I was a creative writing minor, and originally I was going to write, to do fiction writing and stuff like that. And before I was allowed to do that, I had to take a couple classes in poetry. And it translated both. I kind of discovered something. So I'd always been force-fed poetry when I was in high school in a way that was the super heady, crappy, boring poetry. Like Emily Dickinson, I hate Emily Dickinson. I'm all about Walt Whitman though. So
yeah, okay.
Take that as for what it's worth.
Well, I don't. That's very odd because at least Emily Dickinson at least rhymes most of the time, as opposed to Walt Whitman, who's just kind of, you know what I mean?
She was just so cryptic that I was like, I don't want to put the energy into trying to figure out. And I honestly don't think anyone can really figure out an Emily Dickinson poem because she never left the house. She was just this crazy person in a room inside her head, and you're looking at the ramblings of a mad woman. But I mean, it's still brilliant poetry, obviously.
I mean, but the thing is, the critique of things like that is such a downward spiral because, there's things I remember reading George Orwell in high school, and my teacher pointing out all of these things, and the color of this represents this, and this, and this, and that. And I remember thank you very much. I remember thinking to myself, you're right on a lot of this stuff, but I guarantee you're way reading into this a little too much. And that,
right?
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're losing. You're trying to look for something that might not be there.
You're projecting your own wants onto it. And see, that's what really annoyed me with it. Is I was like, is poetry even that was the only poetry I was aware of. Was this really overly heady thing? And so when I got to college, and someone was like, hey, and I was a songwriter, so I wrote very lyrical type poetry, and I was into brand new Jesse Lacey, so stuff that he has the most tongue in cheek lyrics. So I had really tongue in cheek poetry, and my teacher pulled me aside. I was like, hey, your stuff's really really good. Take a look at some of these poets, and she gave me a bunch of modern kind of slam spoken word type poets, and I had never really been exposed to that world before. And when I watched it, and I was watching these YouTube videos Anis Majgani, Derek Brown.
Shane Cozen.
Yeah, Sarah Kay.
Shane Cozen is my number one.
Yeah.
He's my number one dude.
Right. And so I'd watch these kind of spoken word artists or Levi the Poet, who I played with a million times. Anyways, they're all over the spectrum. But I was just wow, poetry can be about performance. Mm-hmm. And it clicked with my musician performer side. I can turn this. It's I'm playing a song to people without an instrument. Mm-hmm. And so then I started memorizing poems, and I would just be at parties, and people were give me a poem, dude. And I just
I've never been to a party like that before.
It would be a party. I would just be chilling with my friends, hanging out, campfire shit,
you. I'm just fucking with you.
And and I don't know, this is college too, so
yeah.
And so I was yeah, okay, and I would just throw out some words, and people were just yeah, dude, that's cool or whatever. And so I just realized poetry didn't have to be this super complex thing. I can literally just say what's on my mind in an articulate way. Mm-hmm. And like, that's why you see a lot of like hip hop artists and people like that really stem from like spoken word, and like it kind of blends into that culture. But for me, it actually came out of like the emo movement and like Brand New and like the really tongue in cheek kind of like Say Anything or Take Back Sunday, who have these like really like exactly what their point is.
Yes.
I guess the new Brand New gets a little bit headier, but
yeah,
like originally it was like, oh, that is angsty. He is pissed off. He really doesn't like that girl. Okay. Like,
well, I mean, no one's more blunt about that than Say Anything.
Oh, yeah. Say Anything. Yeah.
Like, every man has a Molly. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, yeah, for sure.
So anyways, yeah, that's kind of how I slipped into it. And then I kind of kept it a secret after when I graduated. It really didn't become a thing until a lot later, because I didn't start performing in slams and stuff like that until a lot later. And I even did it without like telling a lot of my friends or anything like that. I didn't really tell my band. It was just like something that people knew I enjoyed poetry, but it was just kind of like, whatever, you're kind of weird for liking it.
Yeah.
But then I started doing like acoustic shows, and the band started doing like we'd do acoustic shows. I was like, hey guys, I just want to like, so when if you ever go to a Breaking Pattern show, we do these like really long-winded instrumentals. We open a show with them, we'll throw one or two in the middle, and we'll usually like end on some kind of like, we just really like instrumentals because they just translate to high energy live.
Yeah.
And they're just more captivating from like a showman perspective. So anyways, sorry, I just burped wine into your microphone.
No, you're good. Take it. Go for it.
But for an acoustic show, we're like, well, we can't really like do the whole like instrumental thing. So what can we do to like capture people's attention and not have them like zone out or whatever? Like, what's going to make for an interesting show that no one's seen before? And so I was like, hey guys, let me just try this like idea of like doing a poem and see how that goes. And like it like got eaten up. Like our fans loved it. And so then we started like, but then it was still like a slow reaction. We were still unsure. Like, we don't want, like, are we a poetry? Like, are we now listener? No, we're not listener. We're still a band with songs and lyrics. Like, we don't just do poems. But then it became this thing, like, more and more over time. It just slowly became more and more incorporated into our set. And then I think you and I met when we opened for Listener.
Opening for Listener, which they were fantastic, but for a band who relies on their words, I couldn't hear anything that they were saying.
Which is why we only do it acoustic.
Exactly. And I don't think that has anything to do with the sound as much as like when you go to a live show, it doesn't matter if I'm at Crescent Ballroom, Marquee, or 51 West.
Yeah.
The only reason I know what they're saying is because I know the words.
Which is why we do instrumentals. So like the strong point of the band, I guess in my eyes, or from the critics or whatever that I've heard from, usually one of the strong points of the band is like our lyricism. Like that's like again, I'm a fan of Brand New. Yeah, that's just kind of like I've always put an emphasis. Like the music to me is important, but to me like the most important part is what do you have to say. Like you got 4 minutes of someone's attention, 3 or 4 minutes of someone's attention.
Don't abuse it.
Yeah, don't abuse it. Like make it worth something.
Absolutely.
And so that's how I've always felt about songs. Like music is there to create the atmosphere and the emotion, but the lyrics are really what's important. Anyway, so and you guys probably do that too. You guys are super influenced by like Morrissey and the Smiths, right?
Kinda. It's one of those things where like people say that to us, and it's like I don't know how Josh got that in his voice. He kind of worked on that over time.
Definitely that first EP that you guys
first EP
did.
For sure. The first EP is it's like crazy, and the album too.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the thing people say to us, and I don't think any of us listen to the Smiths or Morrissey. I can't speak for Josh, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't either. I think Josh was pulling from. I think his voice naturally has that when he kind of goes low and vibrato.
It's just like a stylistic choice.
And
there's so many bands that pull from Morrissey too.
Exactly.
Like he could have been influenced by like The National or like some other band that's like clearly influenced.
Yeah, and it was cool. We were really, really happy when people started saying that because we were like, yeah, people really like Morrissey, but none of us were really like.
That's so
it.
funny.
But we were like, dude, that's really cool because he's respected and whatever. But that wasn't ever our intention.
I definitely have been compared to bands that like they're great bands, but I'm like, yeah, I don't listen to that band at all. But sure, like I'll take that comparison.
Yeah, we've gotten that before. There's some bands where it makes sense. Like our early work is much different from what we're working on now. It's a 180-degree difference. But originally we got like The Garden a lot, and we got like Fiddler a little bit, I guess, and we got obviously surf bands and
yeah, I was gonna say some of the modern like
the beach
surf
goth
rock,
stuff,
beach weather and stuff like that.
Yeah. Best Coast and things.
Mm-hmm.
People were saying that, not anymore, but yeah, it was cool. It was cool to be like, I don't know. it's hard if you have a sound that is so like something else that someone's able to say you sound like these 15 other bands, which luckily we never were. But I have friends who are in bands who are like, oh yeah, you guys sound like this. You know, it's like this too. You also totally sound like this band, and it's like
that's a way better compliment to sound like 15 bands than to sound like one band.
Yeah,
because there's other bands that I'll listen to and I'll be like, yeah, you stole that riff from 1975, and you sound like 1975, and you sound like 1975.
No, that's a really good point, actually.
Yeah,
that's a really good point. I never thought about that.
If people are like, oh, you're like brand new, and you're like Lydia, and you're like Dashboard, and you're like you're like 1970, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's fine with me, because I'm like, yeah, well, I have like a million
pull from all
influences.
these,
yeah. And don't get me wrong, like I steal shit all the time. I'm like, yeah, that's a great riff. I'll take that. I like this style of lyricism. I like this kind of like drum hook right here. And so like I'll pull from all these different like sources to create what I think is like the ultimate
of course.
song, you know.
Perfect, yeah.
That's to me is like the fun of songwriting. But when everyone's like, or you hear a band and it's like, yeah, you're clearly drawing all your influence from like one. That's what kills me too, when you like a big band like 1975 breaks out or 21 Pilots breaks out, all of a sudden everyone they're like, or Imagine Dragons was the biggest, man. So many bands came out sounding like Imagine Dragons. And I'm like, dude, they killed it because they found their own sound that pulled from multiple influences, and it was like gorgeous. Like no one had done this like folk EDM rock thing all at once.
It was their Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding,
Dude, they made serious money off it, and then like now all these bands are like, oh, we should like add like weird wah wah wahs into my like folk song, and yeah.
See, there's a band that I know of who sound so much like AJJ that it makes me just like embarrassed, and that's the thing is like when you can't have a band like I don't know, like you can't take a band like AJJ who has such a ridiculously unique sound, and ape his voice, ape the way he plays guitar, ape like the stand-up bass, like I don't understand the compulsion of an artist. Like when you're an artist, I always thought of artists as people who they have these things inside them and they need to get rid of them, and this is who I am. Like who like sits down and just says I'm going to sound as much like this band as possible. You know
what it is though? So there's like a couple different types of guitarists, but there's really like, to me there's like two main types of guitarists. There's the guitarists that are phenomenal at learning covers and learning songs. And there's people who are terrible at learning covers and learning songs. I am that second one, man. I am absolutely like, it was just funny because I used to be like a worship leader. I used to work for churches and get paid to learn songs. But like the funny thing is churches would always ask me like, hey, that's not how the song would I was like, yeah, I just felt like it would sound better if I just did it like this. So even when I would learn a song, I could never do it the same way because I had to do it my own way because it felt better. And so like, I definitely know those kind of guitar players who have a hard time coming up with like their own lines and their own like leads or their own like riffs because they're so like honed in on like learning from these other songs that instead of like taking the elements from that song, they just take the song.
Yeah, for sure.
They're like, hey, that chord progression's good. Let me just use that exact chord progression, that exact tone because I know it works. And then, you know, you get nothing creative out of that and they end up just ripping off a band that they liked a lot. So that's why I need people like me who really suck, who have ADD and they start learning it and they're like, oh, this is how you play the song. This is really boring now that I learned it. Okay, you know what would be cool if I spiced it up with a little bit of that, and that's how you start writing your own songs.
Dude, I tried out for a church band in 6th grade, and I was a drummer. So I was a drummer for a long time.
Oh, before you were a bassist?
Yeah. I'm like actually trained on drum. I took drum lessons for like 3 years. Like I'm like really technical. Like I know drum stuff. Like that's
Bro, you need to switch instruments. You know how hard it is to find a good drummer in the scene right now? There's like 3 good drummers in all of Arizona. It is competitive out there.
So I did that for a long time, and at the height of like really constantly taking lessons and knowing as much as I can, I tried out for this church band, and they didn't let me. I on my audition failed because I wanted to do too much. And now I understand music a lot more, and I understand that you don't want like a Keith Moon all the time just running. You want someone who can.
No, in church is all about the pocket, man.
But that's the thing.
You gotta be
as
in the background as possible.
Like that's what I was saying, man. And I remember. Just like I remember I fucking thought I did really well, and I was like changing all these things and adding all these things and all this stuff, and they kept stopping the song and being like, yeah, can you just like play it how we have it already. And I
See, that
like,
was not me. If you
this
you
isn't
were
even a real band. First of all, it's a fucking church band. Secondly, like,
if you were with me though, if you were in my worship team and I was leading you, I'd have been like, yo, dude, feel it. Like, feel the spirit. Go for it. It's like, Jesus loves creativity, homie. Like, kill it.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, I wasn't even religious, and I'm not now, but I at the time, I just wanted, like, my parents would drag me to church, and, like, I was like, all right, well, I might as well do something while I'm here, so I played drums, and that's kind of how, and then they wouldn't let me, so I was like, yeah, fuck all of you, how about that? Like,
yeah, that'd make me bitter towards church, too. I definitely sharpened my skills working for church.
It's a good place to do it. Do you know Mike Goodrick?
Oh, dude, he's brilliant.
Dude, you know Mike Goodrick?
Yeah. I used to do.
I got some Mike Goodrick stories, motherfucker.
Really? Oh, dude. One, he was a great local musician. I don't know if he still plays locally, but two, he used to do this awesome thing that I actually played for a couple times called they do it on First Fridays. Renew. It's called Renew. I don't know if you've heard of it, but basically dude, it's so epic. Sorry to go on like this weird Christian rant. But so on First Fridays, it's like a bunch of like worship leaders and just basically a Christian worship service, no preaching whatsoever. So no one's giving a message. There's no sermon. It's just music from start to finish. And like Mike Riddick was one of like, there's like 1 of 3 leaders, but when they lead, they won't lead the song. They'll like let other people lead the song. Like, so they only lead it in the sense that they help organize what songs are going to be played and like who will play those songs or like lead the song. And then it's literally whoever shows up is allowed to play. So there was like, my very first time I went, there was 5 drummers on 5 kits. And like 1 or 2 of them was just like in a pit full of like toms. And then there was 6 electric guitars, like 3 acoustic guitars, a whole choir of female vocalists with microphones. Like it was just like and like 2 or 3 bassists, which is none of that's neat. All of it's excessive. But like it was just like I went in and you know worship is like so straightforward and all these people like everyone knew what they were doing. Because you get the chord chart in front of you and you run through the chords, and it was like this wall of like epic sound when you got like 5 or 6 drummers just tearing into you with a tom fill, and then just guitars like shredding, like 1 or 2 just shredding the lead while the rest are just like pounding the chords at you, and you're just like, damn, like this is like it's like a musical experience you have like that nothing on this earth can experience, not only because of like just the sheer like power and volume and like energy of it, but because like all of it is like improvised. There's like an entire like a room full of people all like saying the same words but like repeating the same choruses over and over again to the part that it's like this whole plane of like new spirituality, and honestly it's a great experience.
So first of all, excuse any questions that I have regarding this, because I've been very, very, very like I've been atheist or whatever you want to call it since I was like 14. So I've always been I've always been ridiculously critical of religion. So
bring it on.
So disregard anything that I say because but what's the if it's all worship leaders and they're all doing that, then what's the point if they're not preaching what they're having to talk about just to move the church like name or what?
Oh no, I don't think there is a
a motive.
Well, when they first, I don't know what it's like now because it's been years since I've done it.
Yeah.
But I know with Mike Goodrick and I think Justin, I can't remember his last name. Like all
Justin.
These.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Great musician too. Anyway,
God, fuck.
Yeah,
these are like talk about what I'm gonna talk about. Go
these
ahead,
are some
talking.
epic musicians in Phoenix, mind you.
Kirich or something like that. Yeah.
Anyway, so these guys, it all started, I was actually kind of there with some of them, but it all started in like a living room of like friends that are just all worship leaders who play music together.
Got it.
Obviously, these again are some of the most talented musicians in Phoenix.
Yeah.
That happen to be Christian worship leaders. Anyways, so they're just like playing songs and their friends are jumping in. And it just like became a fun thing to do. And it just feels good to like, it feels good not to have a message because like all Christians, like at the end of the day, like to just come together, all different denominations, like the crazy freaking like people who are like speaking in tongues, like the wild Christians, or like the super
even the Christians are like fuck those guys.
Yeah, like those Christians, And then there's like the other end of the spectrum who's like the super hippie, like smoking pot Christians, like Christians all over the spectrum, man. Like, and there's even a Bible verse where Jesus is like, I did not come to bring unity. Like people will like fight in my name, and I'm not saying I want it. It's just that's gonna happen. And like, so there's verses where even Jesus is like, this is not, you don't think I'm gonna unify the world here.
Get fucked up.
Like, and like, whoa, who knew? He was right. So even like Christians, we never agree on the same thing. But when we all come together and like the only thing that matters is just like praising God and like worshiping God and like laying down our own ego and our own self-consciousness and just to like be in this moment with these other people and to just be like, basically with worship, the idea is like you're glorifying God, you're putting him ahead of you and you're like focusing on him. And so it's kind of like this like feeling of like the closest thing to like experiencing a taste of what heaven will be like
is 8 drummers at once.
It's like 8 drummers at once. No, for real though, because whenever you like read scripture about like the Bible and stuff like about like the crazy stuff like in Revelations, like the real weird
like 7
stuff.
trumpeters.
Yeah, it's like there's like trumpets and choirs and like and it's all described in music, and it's because like visually, how would you describe something that's like in a different plane of existence? Yeah. Something that's not within our realm of reality. Like you can't actually fathom that from like a visual perspective. So just to be like, well, it like feels like the way this sounds, or it like, that's
cool. No, that's cool. So one of the things that I want to bring up is okay. I am going to get back to my Mike Goodrick story in a minute because I do think it's interesting. But before I get to that, I want to talk about this because
he has no idea who I am, by the way. He's like some weird guitarist that played with me once.
I guarantee you he doesn't remember me either. So, but I do want to mention, I want to stay on the topic of that for just 1 second. Yeah. Because I think this is an important point. You mentioned, first of all, I'm also not one of these like Bill Maher atheist people who makes their fucking meat just constantly railing other people for their beliefs. It used to be when I was like 15. I was the anti-religion troll on the internet.
It was like Richard Dawkins. This is what I tell people when people are like, "What do you?" Because I also my degree.
I love Richard Dawkins, but he's kind of a dickhead.
Yeah, I graduated molecular biology, and I was in all these like evolution courses and stuff like that. And it was so funny because my evolution teacher actually is the one who like me and him like had to talk about like Richard Dawkins. He's like, oh, fuck Richard Dawkins.
Yeah, no, the thing is like I like his work, but he's such an asshole.
This is what he is, man. This is my description when people ask me about him. I mean, it's not like he's not an idiot, obviously, but he is the guy who would like walk up the steps of the Aztec temple, grab the preacher, take his hat off, throw him down the steps, and then put on the hat and become the new god. Like that's who Richard Dawkins is.
That.
He has no interest. He wants to be a preacher in and of himself.
He does. No, I agree. The thing is, so when I was a teenager, now we're on a okay. So when I was a teenager, I remember his interview, or not his interview, but the panel he was on with Brendan Flowers from The Killers. And I don't know if you know have you seen that or not? But
I'd love to see it.
So Brendan Flowers is Mormon, and basically Richard Dawkins just beats him over the face with facts. And like it's one of those things where when I was a teenager, I was like, yeah, fuck that idiot Mormon. Fuck it. Like he doesn't even know anything about his own religion. Richard Dawkins is trying because the thing is, A, he was blindsided. B, he doesn't know nearly as much about his own religion as Richard Dawkins does, provably by the fucking interview.
Oh, I'm sure Richard Dawkins could destroy me.
But the thing is, when I was like 15, I was like, yeah, this is great, because I was all angsty and angry, and I was like super into Anton LaVey. And then I remember watching that interview again, maybe sometime last year. Yeah. And I remember watching it. And I think because I still remembered it being like funny or something. Yeah. And I was watching it, and I was like a 23-year-old man. I was like, oh, this is really fucking mean.
It's like cringy, like,
yeah. It's not like when you're a teenager, it's really funny, but now it's like, ugh. But okay, so one of the point that I wanted to make. Yeah. You were talking about worship, and you were talking about putting God ahead of you, and the thing that I think as I've gotten older, a lot of the things that I've disagreed with religious people has changed quite a bit. It used to just be like, oh, you're fucking my friend, but just like stupid bullshit. And, I've grown out of all that, because I'm very, very, very into human behavior, and I'm very interested in empathy and human behavior, and I completely understand all of those things, and I do not discredit them, and they're totally fine. I don't care about that at all. There is, though, there's one fundamental disagreement that I will always have, and I will respectfully have now that I'm an adult, but I will respectfully always have a fundamental disagreement with any religious person, and that is that I believe that the idea of putting anything, the idea of putting a God in front of you or looking up solely to a God and not worshiping yourself is fundamentally wrong. Like that's one of those things where like anytime someone says, "Oh, I'm so happy that God put me here," I get like offended because I'm like, "No, you should be fucking proud of yourself. Look what you did. Like you did this." And anytime someone's like, "No, I just God's always ahead of me," and I'm like, "No, you're number one. Look what you did. Praise your friends and your family and your achievements." You know what I mean? Like,
here's my my question for you regarding that, because I don't disagree. Like, I believe we should like love ourselves and respect ourselves. I just I think maybe the perception that I have from it might be different. Do you ever feel like that could breed like
absolutely
narcissism,
absolutely,
or greed?
And
or
I don't believe that everybody should agree with me, because a lot of people would take that off the edge of the earth, which is another reason I've never ever like So I don't know how much you know about like LaVeyan Satanism, but that was what I got really into in high school.
Well, I know a lot of Satanism is about like praising yourself and worshiping yourself. And see, I understand where they're coming from, and on one level, I do think again it's okay to. But here's the issue with it. You look at someone like Trump, and I think he is the pure definition of self-worship. He literally says things like, "I'm the smartest," and like he is like the epitome of like greed and pride and things like that. And so I think when you take those things to an extreme, like the self-glorification to an extreme, or even like rock stardom, right? See, I see musicians who will come on stage and
this is good.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying this.
You see musicians who come on stage and they do it because they want to, be like, for a plethora of reasons. For instance, and I talked about this recently in this article I did about sexual assault. A lot of musicians will come in just so they can be more like sexual appealing. They don't care about the art. They don't care about making a positive impact in the lives of fans. Like, they'll say whatever they need to say to make a good song.
Absolutely.
And then they'll have some like 16-year-old girl like throwing themselves at them, and they're like some 25, 30-year-old dude, and they're just gonna be like, "Okay, yeah, come here," like, because they don't think about her mentality. They don't think about like her ability, like the power disconnect between the two. All he thinks about is like, yeah, I'm awesome, she wants me, and I'm gonna go take advantage of that situation.
Absolutely.
And so I think when you take it to extremes, not only do I think like self-glorification is like, this is why I think what's more important is putting other people before yourself.
Well, yeah,
I
agree
think
that you should.
Absolutely, but I think it's so hard to do that. And as a Christian, like, people are gonna be like, "Well, Derek, you go up on stage and you have like sexual songs," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're absolutely right." And I'm by no means like the epitome.
Because you're a human being.
Yeah. But I guess that would be the
okay.
rebuttal.
So a couple things. One, you're right. Absolutely, you're right. There's nothing. I can't disagree with anything that you just said. But I do want to bring up two important things. One, someone like Trump is a terrible example of like what the original intention of a philosophy like Satanism was, because so they talk a lot about ego. So okay, I'm going to make 2 points. One is for Satanism. One is against it. One. They talk a lot about ego, and a healthy ego is not always believing that you're the shit. A healthy ego is being able to balance yourself and be self-aware. Now, so you have people like crazy narcissists; those people have unhealthy egos.
Okay, so it's like a realistic view,
exactly,
and perception of who you are.
But always understanding that like you should help other people, and you should do things for other people. But you shouldn't go out of your way to do it if it's going to hurt you in the long run, and if this person's going to end up taking advantage of you. Basically, is the idea. Now, that's fine, but here's the thing against it: you can go way off the edge of the earth with it. I've never called myself a Satanism, but it taught me a lot about myself that I didn't know beforehand. That was very important. I was always a wet noodle growing up, and I just kind of let people push me around, and I never really truly understood self-worth. Until in Christianity, I was a hardcore Christian in 6th grade because I thought that I was possessed by demons. Because I was
that's a story.
I thought I was possessed by demons, and long story short, when I got out of that, was really embarrassed, and I was like, "Fuck all this shit." And then like 2 years later, I found the
was it like mental issues? Did you like get psychiatric help for it?
It wasn't that insane. I have really bad anxiety problems, and when I was a kid, I didn't have the intelligence to battle it. So basically, I was weird, and I grew up in a small 5,000 person town in Ohio, and there was more churches than books, and I just thought that all of these things were real and true, and I didn't know any better.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I thought that all of these things that I believed in, all these things that was weird, I thought that they meant that I was obviously possessed by something. So, which is it's just like a funny story.
And
but
you were raised by Christians,
I
right?
was 12. I was fair weather Christians, like going to church on holiday.
Okay, so they weren't some like Pentecostals.
No.
Okay.
No. So this is all me.
Okay.
So I went to church and I got saved and I did the whole thing. And I went to church for probably about 6 to 8 months, 3 times a week. My parents never went with me. They always just dropped me off and I would do it by myself. My parents were like, man, that's cool, whatever. My dad was always like an atheist and hiding. Like my dad didn't truly like come out of his shell until he got a little older and I got older.
Funny, same thing with me. I was raised atheist.
Really? Yes. Yeah. But my dad always just like went along with my mom because it's just I'm good. Yeah, whatever your mom says.
Agnostic.
Exactly.
I think atheist is a strong term.
It is
sometimes.
A strong term. I'm one of those people. I say atheist because it's easier than explaining a lot of stuff.
Well, if it's true, it's true. You know.
Yeah, it's one of the things like.
But my dad is a spiritual guy.
Yeah.
He just doesn't believe in God and.
I don't have a certitude that God doesn't exist. But agnostic also has like, I would almost prefer the negativity that surrounds the word atheism versus the negativity that surrounds the word agnostic, because agnostic has such a kind of like, you know what I mean?
It's true. It's so true that when someone says they're atheist and I know they're like a respectful, intelligent person, I'm like, great, let's have a conversation.
Exactly.
When someone says they're agnostic, I'm like, he does not give a flying F about my beliefs.
And that's why I never say it like that. But it's the truth. I guess technically I'm agnostic. But anyway, that's that whole thing. I'm not in any way, shape, or form a Satanist because they're also like really elitist capitalists, and I don't agree with that either. They're very like into Ayn Rand and shit, and that's just like not, yeah, right. But anyway, Mike Goodrick. So,
Iran, Donald Trump, prominent worship leader in the Phoenix scene. Go.
Yeah. Okay, so Mike Goodrick. Haven't talked to him in years. So
if someone knows him, they need to tag him in this
I know,
video so they can
God.
just be like, who are these guys talking
you know
about
what the
me?
shittiest part is right we started talking about Mike Goodrick and then we started talking about Satanism. And he's like, what the fuck is he about to say?
I know.
So, okay, great guy. I met him in 2011 when the band that I was in at the time was opening up for him and He Is We at the Underground.
That'd be a great show.
Yeah, it was at the Underground. And that was one of his last shows that he ever played. He was barefoot, the whole deal. And I don't know if he still does that, but back then he did. And this was back when he was touring still, and he was still like really into.
He had a great pop band. I remember them.
Yeah, Mike Goodrick. That was his band. And that Justin guy was the guitar player. And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and this guy Malik was the drummer. And so the reason I know all of that was because I was gonna play bass for that band. I learned all the songs. I like sat down by ear, and they're really easy root note stuff. But I sat down. I was 16 or 17 years old, and I sat down and I learned all the songs, and I was ready, and I was really excited. And then the band broke up.
Well, at least it was that. I thought it was gonna be like, you're an atheist, get out of here.
No, they were super cool with me, and he was just like, oh yeah, thank you for filling me up. He just, it was one of those things that he left the band because he wanted to focus more on worship or whatever. And then the band that I was in was a little shitty pop band called Drive Through Thursday. And the singer or the guitar player in my band, same exact thing, mid practice, he like stops playing and he's like, yeah, this is a month later. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna devote myself more to worship. And I was like, all these people keep dropping. Like come on.
Were you ever like a Micah Bentley fan or anything like that? Micah Bentley.
I don't know who that is.
He was the lead singer of A Change of Pace, and he did some solo stuff. But he went off to be a worship leader for CCV, and he made this like band of a bunch of mega musicians from like that are all like Christian rock stars. Okay. And they made a band.
CCV. I know that. I've seen that logo before.
Yeah, they're all over cars. They're probably one of the biggest church in Phoenix, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
With a bunch of satellites. But yeah, he ended up doing a worship leader for them, and then they made a side project called Wild Earth, which you should check out.
Okay.
I'm not like personally friends with them that well. I know some of the guys, but oh my God, it's just like some of the best music I've ever heard, like just from a purely musical standpoint.
Huh. Okay, cool.
But yeah, when you grow up in churches like that, and you like I said, I actually was not a Christian growing up. I got invited to go play for a church that was full of like the cool kids in my school.
This is the story I want to hear. How did you go from not? It's very rare that people go from not being religious to being faithful. I don't want to say religious, faithful.
People rebel against their parents, so
that's what it is. Yeah, why did I even ask? Should have guessed.
Who's determined? No, so for me, I won't go into like the full story of this. We can if you want, but
we'll do whatever. I got time.
Essentially, I moved around a lot as a kid. Oh, God, I guess we're going to go through
that's in my questions. Perfect that you bring this up. This is a perfect segue.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
I moved a lot. So I was born in Texas, raised in Georgia, lived in Tennessee, moved to Phoenix when I was in like sophomore year of high school. Then went off to Tucson for college and moved back to Phoenix after college. So I just moved a lot. And I moved even in those states too. Anyway, so I was a new kid in Phoenix, and I was like bullied in middle school and stuff like that, as we all were. Mm-hmm. And so then
any real artist worth their weight.
Yeah, I think we're all like, I don't know anyone who doesn't have just a brutal middle school story.
Any artist who tells me that high school was the best years of my life or of their life, I immediately discredit. And like, well, okay. Whatever.
So then I come into high school thinking like, I'm gonna kick some ass. I moved around so much that I was like, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna be the cool kid or whatnot. And I remember hiding underneath the staircase at lunchtime so that no one would like see me eating by myself. Because I was so determined that like I will be the cool kid in school.
Yeah, like an uncomfortable leather jacket, like George Michael in Arrested Development.
Yeah, basically, dude. I wanted it really bad, which is like such a stupid thing to want. Even at that age, I knew it was a stupid thing to want.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
But then I went and played the talent show, and I remember before I played the talent show, the funny thing coming from Tennessee, like the style there is way preppier, and then I came here and like. Everyone wears black. Just like everyone wore black. It was like the MySpace emo days, and I was like, what? And I was like wearing like an Abercrombie shirt that didn't even have a collar, so I was considered like not preppy in the South. I came over here, and they're like, you are so preppy. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is weird. And I was like, whatever. Anyways, so some kid that had like this greasy long black hair, Metallica shirts, it was like playing the talent show that year too. And everyone's like, oh, why are you playing the talent show? I was like, I'm a guitar player. I was going to do like a solo or something. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna call him Bob. Bob was in the talent show, and you know him. He's like a great guitar player, and is like, I'm pretty good too. And they're like, yeah, but he's like, where's Metallica? Like, he's the real deal. And I was just like, oh, because I wear like Abercrombie and stuff. I can't play guitar, right? Okay, I got you. And I went and I played that talent show, and I played the guitar with my teeth and behind my head and with a water bottle. And I did like a tap solo. So I went like
a water bottle as opposed to the beer bottle. Is that
yeah. So like I played it one-handed drinking water while soloing, and then I like started like playing slide guitar on it and like had my guitar in weird tunings and stuff.
That's amazing.
And so I just like, and I had to like spend like months just working on this solo, and I just like blew away everyone. It was like a different like, and I came back the next day at school like. Instantly famous.
Dude.
I was instantly popular, and I got asked to go join this like church band that was like, they're like, we need another guitar player, and I was like, yeah, friends.
Dude, talent shows. Fucking, I have the exact same story.
Really?
There was a kid. I've said it before I said it before on one podcast, but I'm gonna say his name again. Doug McIntosh, fucking junior high, Valley View Middle School in Germantown, Ohio. This kid played the talent show every year. He was known for playing the talent show. I'm not gonna tell like the long form version of the story because I want to hear about you. But he every year he played, and he was always gimmicky, and he always just played like some song by like Big Star or whatever, and it was always boring.
Yeah.
And he always just like 1 2 1 2 3 bass, just
he's a drummer.
Drum stuff. Drum stuff. Drummer. So I'm sorry. So, and then he would do like 1 2. It was always that was it. It was
like his go-to fill.
Yeah, he was had the same like go-to fill. It's etched in my memory. And he so every year everyone thought he was the shit. And I had drummed a little bit. This was before I was really taking drum lessons. And I was like, no, this is bullshit. Like, I'm better than him, and I don't even play that much. So I watched him at the talent show. I spent that whole entire next school year working my ass off and playing drums, specifically to spite Doug McIntosh
to kick his ass.
And his shitty mom who worked at the movie gallery who would never let me rent PG-13 movies. So I hated them. And,
what up now, Doug McIntosh?
Yeah, no, I looked. So anyway, so Doug, he plays. Time comes, and he's got like his snare, 2 toms, 4 tom bass with like a pillow in it. I've got like snare, bass, 2 toms, floor tom, and 2 little like little
you
mini,
went full like
sounds.
70s.
Oh,
like.
dude, I didn't even need all of it. I just wanted to look good, and I fucking slaughtered him. Like there's no like. And then I was trying to show off, and it failed. The moral of the story is don't show off. Like no, I fucking won, and I killed. And he played along to a song, and I did a solo, and I destroyed him. And he there was like one person talking to him after the show, and there was like the entire class was talking to me, and it felt wonderful. And that one instance is why I'm still a musician. That's the thing that got me interested in music, was just spiting this kid.
The funny thing is, I don't even. So in my story, I don't even really know the other guy that I beat. Like he could have been a nice guy for all I know. It was really just the fact that everyone thought he was better than me because he wore Metallica shirts and long hair.
Yeah.
You know, just like, you know what, fuck you guys. Like I can do this shit. But yeah, now in hindsight, I wonder if he just sits in his room at night like fucking Derek Hackman,
dude,
that goddamn son of a bitch. Like,
you know what? Though?
One upped me.
No, I don't even know if I want to. Are we really able to be like as candid as humanly possible?
Hey, man, it's your show.
I mean, you have your show at the same time.
Yeah, I guess so.
That same kid, totally. Okay, so we went, and we are gonna get back to your story. I'm so sorry for rambling.
I don't even know what story I'm on now.
We were talking about traveling. We'll get back to it in a second. Okay. So we took a class field trip to Florida, and this was after that it all happened.
Yeah.
We took a class trip to Disney World, and because that's like the closest cool thing to Ohio is Florida. It's really not that.
Right.
It's like on a map, it looks like it's far, but it's not. So we took a class trip to Florida, and that same kid totally caught me jerking off in the hotel room. So like. So he really
That's not where I saw that story.
He really did have the last laugh. So whatever.
Did he like tell the school or anything?
No.
Okay.
He was. That's the thing.
He just had the blackmail over your head.
That's the thing about Doug McIntosh. He was so nice that he like.
So
really,
you were the asshole.
Yeah.
You're the bad guy in this
Yeah,
story.
he was so nice.
That's what I'm saying. Now that I'm like way older and I'm looking back at the story, all of a sudden I realize that maybe I'm not the good guy anymore.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't. I totally wasn't. But spite is what got me interested in music, as it turns out.
Bro, dude, honest to God, that is what got me through like even my parents now are like, you're not playing music now because of your spite in your high school psychology. Like, it's like, no, I actually enjoy it now. But
so you jumped here from the American Southwest. You came. I mean, pretty much Tennessee is the South. Like, let's be real.
Oh yeah, it's super South. Oh, dude, you know what how South it is, man. Tennessee is the most beautiful state in the world, full of the most nicest people, and I love it and I miss it. Arizonians are like really standoffish.
Yeah, they are a little bit, especially dude. Southern hospitality is real.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Like we moved in Tennessee, people brought us cookies. Moved to Phoenix, no one brought me cookies. No, my mom actually cried when we moved here because no one brought
cookies.
Yeah,
oh shit.
She thought like maybe they didn't like us, and she took it like because moving around like in Georgia and Tennessee it was like a custom to bring your neighbors like baked good, and so she moved here and she like started crying because she thought all the neighbors hated her, and I was like, I don't think it's that. But anyways, we had a statue of the guy who founded the KKK in the center of Tennessee, the city I was at in Tennessee.
Okay, hold on. I was like laughing from the last story, and now I have to like bring it down.
No, it's all good. You can laugh at that too, because like, how are the nicest people in the entire world so secretly like hateful? It doesn't make any sense,
dude. It's crazy.
So that's like my love-hate for the South. Like, I wish the rest of the world was like the South in terms of like how nice and kind they are to each other, like actual neighborly love. But like that weird underlying like hyper-conservative like white power shit needs to die, man.
And not only that, but David Cross said it best when he said that a lot of the people in the South, especially when it comes to racism, not just racism, but just politics in general, are willfully ignorant. And I thought that was
they want it.
Very, very insightful, because it's true. Mm-hmm. Like, you can give them all the facts and like, nope, not my fucking, not my facts. Like, it is unfair to because I do feel like we're not allowed to be racist anymore for good reason. No one's allowed to be racist anymore, but everybody is allowed to be prejudiced on Southerners. It's like open season on people from the South. The second you make someone sound dumb or you impersonate a dumb person, you immediately put a Southern accent on them.
Right.
Always. And that's completely okay. And that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, and like I said, it sucks because like they really are like the nicest people, and like from a cultural perspective, they got that right. Mm-hmm. Like, New York didn't get that right. No. Like, fucking, even LA, like, they're not dicks out in LA, but, like, they don't give a shit about you. Like, all the relationships and friendships you make in LA are like, what business do you do? What can you do for me?
Oh, it's total piss in the wind. What can I get from you? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so, like, and I've been in those experiences, and so I'm like, no, there's, like, people who, like, you sit in line in a grocery store, and they'll just talk your ear off for 30 minutes and like about anything. And so, like, I feel like that would be great if we had that as like a more cultural perspective. But no, from a conservative, like politics is very similar to religion in this regard. When you try to debate religion or you try to debate politics, there's always going to be someone smarter than you. There's smarter Christian. There's smarter atheists than me. Like Richard Dawkins, like I said, could kick my ass. And there's probably smarter Christians than Richard Dawkins that ever existed.
Yeah.
Some of the most brilliant scientists of all time. Gregor Mendel, the father of genetics, and the whole reason anything we know about evolutionary biology is because of a Christian monk. Like, so it's not like a matter of intelligence. I think in America, we're so concerned about intelligence, and we almost like think that like intelligence is like the end all be all of everything. And don't get me wrong, we should make decisions that are like based in fact and logic and things like that. But you go into like things like politics and stuff like that, and people just know like, well, it doesn't matter if you're right because this is how I feel, and like feeling becomes so much more important. And I equate that to religion, because you go somewhere with religion, there's only so much intellectualism you can really have, but you go to somewhere like Thailand or places that are like deeply spiritual and like with multitudes of religions and practices. And I only say this because my best friend did a mission trip and did a documentary in Thailand about missionaries there, long-term missionaries. And it was never, the question was never like, try to outsmart me. It was never like, are you smarter than me? Or are you going to be able to convince me? It was like, how powerful is your God? Because we believe in these spirits. We like pray at the altars. We cut ourselves. We put these like weird animal tattoos on ourselves so we can harvest the powers of these animals, like weird shit. So there was always like, there's like something strong about your God. Who is your God? And so it was like way weirder when my American friends went out to Thailand. They're like, dude, I was expecting to get in these like weird debates with people, but it wasn't about debating. It was about like we'd like pray and like think like it was like this weird like, and it's a dark place over there too, because like human trafficking is really big in Thailand. So my friends got all kinds of mentally fucked up when coming back from it.
That's that's crazy. That's the thing though about religion is you can't like, sure, intelligence is what. Look, when you're trying to sell anything, whether it's religion or it's a political race or it's an album, doesn't matter what it is. You're not. The competition isn't who's more intelligent. The competition is who's more charismatic. Right. And that's it's exactly that way with religion or anything else. It's not it's you can convince someone without being smarter than them, so long as you're more charismatic than they are. And that's I don't really like that's the end of my point. But that's you said something that for some reason sparked that.
Right. No, I think that's definitely part of it. I mean, but here's the thing though. I mean, there's got to be truth, right? There's got to be truth somewhere, but where is it? You know, there's got to be truth in politics somewhere. There's got to be the end all be all with politics. The whole reason we do these debates in politics is because we all want a better country. We want a better society. We want, economic stability and safety for our families. Like that's it. We all want that. And with religion, we just want the truth on the world. We want to know like, why do we exist? Why are we here? What's our purpose? Like, give me a guidance. Yeah, and comfort. Yeah,
that was the thing that I wanted the most when I was religious. Or when I was really really into that whole thing. The number one thing that I was looking for was comfort, which definitely made me a shitty Christian. But that's comfort is a big thing, because I know plenty of Christians who will admit to having doubts, but they hold on because they don't know how to move on with they don't know how to face their problems without it. It's that whole the whole adage of like in a foxhole. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Like everyone becomes a Christian in a foxhole.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I agree to that. There's definitely like a safety in knowing it.
Yeah.
For me, again, it's. I get maybe I'm different in this regard. I don't know. Maybe I can't speak on behalf of other people, but for me, it was always about what's the reality of the situation. So I by no means think I'm right is the other thing. And whenever I do get in any kind of like Christian debate or anything like that, I'm like, look, I'm not saying that my beliefs are right. I'm just saying like at this point in time, this just makes the most sense to me, and this is what I've experienced anecdotally in my own life. But yeah, like when I'm citing politics, religion, or anything like that, it's so hard just to like, I can't sit there and cite scripture after scripture after scripture. I can give you like basic synopsises and then maybe Google it, or like same with politics. I can't sit there and like spat economic stats at you. I can't either, yeah. But I can tell you that like, yeah, I think I think legalizing weed would be a great thing, and I can't give you stats on it, but like, I think it would be freaking awesome. Like, I think gay people should get married. Like, I think that's cool. Yeah. Like, so like I have these like views, but I can't sit there and like cite like, well, if we all smoked weed, we would be $1.3 trillion richer, and and I guess that's kind of the ultimate point. So we can wrap that up.
No. There's no. The thing is that the biggest problem that I've had with subscribing to any idea is that, like, or any idea that has a label, whether it's religion or a philosophy or whatever. The exact same reason that I've never claimed to be a Satanist is the same reason that I would never be able to claim to be a Christian, which is that I personally lack the ability to align myself with something by label or name without 100% agreeing with every single faction of it. So with Christianity, there's myriad, and I'm not going to belabor them, but there's myriad things, especially in the Old Testament, that are completely fucking nuts. And because those things exist, I am completely without the ability to align myself with them. And there are some people who are able to be like, look, man, like I just feel it's my interpretation or my inference of it is that these things no longer matter and whatever. And I think that's cool that you believe that. But me personally, I'm like, when it comes to some, I'm very not black and white. But when it comes to certain things, like, every little thing has to line up for me to really be able to side with it and support it. And nothing does. Literally nothing does.
I think, and I respect that. But there comes a point in time eventually, because it's so much gray area, right? There's always going to be a gray area. I guess for me, there comes a point in time where you can ask so many questions, and then you just have to make a decision.
Absolutely.
And so for you asked so many questions, and your decision was, hey, I'm going to be an atheist. And I think that's fine.
Or I'm just going to, like, not decide anything.
Or just not decide.
Yeah, which is the thing.
Yeah, I guess technically that's where you went with it. But I guess I got to that point where I was like, I asked questions and it was answered, and I asked questions and it was answered. And it was not like this, like, you can ask these, like, crazy ass questions. You can ask, well, why does pain exist? Like, if we have a loving God, why does pain exist? Like, one of the hardest questions to answer. You can keep asking that kind of stuff, but eventually it just comes down to, like I said, there's always people smarter than you, and there's always going to be people that have an answer, and there's always going to be people that, like, are idiots, and that they're going to be on both sides of the coin. But then it just comes down to, okay, well, what do you think? And that's when you just got to make a choice. And I guess not making a choice was your choice, and I think that's okay too. But I do think in general, these are kind of the questions and things that you should seek. And I think, like, a healthy lifestyle is seeking some kind of spirituality, but completely removing yourself from it. I don't.
I agree. That's my thing is I do, because I flip flop on certain things depending on how I feel, like, and I have to be able to, like, it's like sometimes if I'm feeling really good and really confident, then I'll believe 100% that this is all bullshit. But then if I'm extremely anxious and I do have really, really, really bad anxiety problems, then I get really anxious, then I immediately want there to be something. So I have to take all of these things and put them into a bowl and realize, okay, all of these things from my different emotions is how I really am. Now, when I look at that, I have to surmise, what is it that I'm going to believe? And I do, like, believe that there is something but belief is hard. Like, there's like that movie Dogma, the Kevin Smith movie.
I love that movie.
Sarah
Silverman is God.
No, it's not. It wasn't Sarah Silverman. It was fucking Sarah Silverman's in it. It was Alanis Morissette is God.
Alanis Morissette was God.
So, but the Chris Rock line is that having an idea and having a belief are very different. It's better to have an idea because you can change an idea, and a belief is very tricky. And I guess is based on Chris Rock's words via Kevin Smith, or Kevin Smith's words via Chris Rock, is that I have an idea and I want there to be something more, and I want the proof of that thing because I'm an information seeker. I'm constantly looking for things. That's why I hold fucking 2.5 hour conversations with strangers. It's why I do all these things, because I want more. I want to know more. Yeah, and I just. Where I am right now is I've never found one thing to completely quell my search for these things, and I want to. I want to find the thing, and I know that Christianity is not it. I've spent a lot of time, like, looking at it and thinking about it. That's not it. But I know that Buddhism's not it because I've got so many fucking problems with Buddhism. There is, and like there's all kinds of things that have. And at the end of the day, who knows? Maybe I'll start a cult and we'll just fucking create our own thing. But like, the cards are. I'm not. All I'm saying is that, like, there's all the cards are on the table. Who knows where it's gonna go? But I do think there's something. Like I want there to. I'm gonna stop saying there is something. I want there to be something. Yeah.
I agree. I think even before I was ever Christian, I think it was really hard to accept a reality in which nothing exists.
I can't handle the thought of dying is my biggest fear. I can't handle the idea of dying and there being nothing.
And I definitely think as an atheist, I would be more scared of death.
Scared the shit out of me.
But you know what my biggest fear in life is? Just in general, completely. Like Christian, not Christian, doesn't matter.
Snakes.
Yes. fucking centipedes, bro. I can't, too many legs on those things.
Anyway, what were you actually going to say?
No, the reality is I'm afraid, and this is what drives me as a musician. Honest to God, this is what drives me as a musician, is I'm afraid I am not going to live up to the potential that I was put on this earth to fulfill. Like
that's noble.
Maybe it's noble.
It's a noble fear.
It's to the point of a paralyzing. I mean,
that's how
maybe.
I am. My number one fear is not being remembered. My number one fear is dying without leaving anything behind, which is a much more selfish one than yours. I prefer yours to mine.
No, but mine is rooted in the same psychological whatever.
Yeah,
it's rooted in the same thing. I mean, like I play music, and like don't get me wrong, like I play music for so many reasons. I can't say it's just one reason.
Of course, but I understand.
But one of it is because, I mean, there's like the Christian part of me that wants to like take pieces of myself and stick it in other people and make them feel better. Mm-hmm. Like that's one reason why I write. Yeah. Like I see my friends are crying, they're heartbroken, and I want to fix them, and I want to write a song to help them or something. You know, like that's a big part of why I do it. There's also that part of like, well, like if for instance, I went to school to be pre-med. I was going to be a doctor, and I did everything pre-med. I was like a straight A student. I got top of my class for molecular and cellular biology, and my podcast is tired of hearing that.
That's cool.
But
I was a CNA for a year.
That's something, dude.
Before I got burnt out of the medical field. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you can have the rest because I got to drive.
All right, dude. Thank you. I'll totally take that.
But anyways, I realized. So I grew up. My father was a doctor. My mom was a nurse. So I realized like for me to be a doctor would just be the most like it would be the easiest path in my life. But for my dad, he grew up like really, really poor in like a really broken household. And he was actually told that he would never. He was told he was never go to college, and he went to college. And when he was in college, his counselor said, "You'll never be a doctor." And so my doctor's like, "No, fuck you, I'm gonna be a doctor." And he was a great and successful doctor, and I really admire my dad. But then I was in school, and I was like, "Well, this is expected of me, like to be this." Like, sure, it's financial security, it's a good life, sure, but like, am I really living to my fullest potential? And so that's when I kind of like dropped out and kind of found my own path. And obviously music isn't enough to pay the bills, and poetry's not enough to pay the bills. And I don't think anyone pays the bills poetry.
Yeah, I was about to say, fuck.
I don't even think Bukowski or any famous poet really paid their bills.
Maybe who was that chick, Ellen Hopkins, who wrote the Crank books? Maybe her, kind of ish. She's like in the middle of poet and like hack writer. She's somewhere in the middle. But
even like the biggest poets in the U.S. that I know of are still like teachers and professors.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Anyways, so you still gotta have a job. But anyways, so art was like kind of that was a part of that outlet for me, where I was like, well, maybe I'm finally able to do something in my life that's a little bit more of something greater, I guess, you know. And I think honestly that sounds more like Satanism than Christianity because that's such like a selfish thing. Is why am I not this great rock star? Why am I not this great whatever? But
that's just human. That's human, and that's the thing. That's all Satanism is taking the human condition and embracing it.
But Christianity is like, I'm dust. Like, you will not be remembered. It's like you will die and you'll turn back to dust and you're gonna be forgotten. And like, but that's okay.
What's better to believe? What's better to want?
What's healthier?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, what's healthier? Like, is it healthier?
From a psychological perspective, is it better for me to have thrown away med school and go broke and be a broke ass musician, like throwing everything into like? To me. Or was it? But even that, like, am I being a Christian? Because then I use my platform to try to help others, and I try to, like I said, I try to pull myself apart for the rest of the world, and I try to fulfill things because I have faith that everything's going to work out all right, that I won't be some broke ass, homeless man on the side of the road with a heroin addiction.
Okay, I don't think you're gonna be that regardless, but
that was the fear. That was my parents' fear, at least.
Dude, that's something that I remember harboring as a kid. I remember being a little kid, and there's 2 moments where I had complete existential crises as a very, very, very young child.
Yeah.
And one was seeing homeless people in Dayton, Ohio. I remember because I grew up in
Ohio too.
Yeah. I remember seeing homeless people and being like, "Fuck, it hit me like that could be anybody. That's not like some." That dude may not have just like beaten up everyone in his life and gotten casted out. He might have just had bad luck. I mean, let's be real. Statistically, most people who are on the street are mentally ill. But
psychological issues, addictions, things like that.
Which I'm not exactly out of the running for. But like for the most part, like but still, I was like, shit, that could totally be me one day. The other existential crisis was when I had a balloon and I let go of it, like a helium balloon from Applebee's, and I watched it fall into the eternity, and that was the first time I really truly understood the idea of like how big it is, and I cried for like 3 days. Like I could not. I was like 4 or 5, lost my mind. And anyway, those are my 2 moments of like being broken as a child. Was like
I don't know if you might have been a deeper thinker than me as a kid. I think
I was just more scared than you, maybe. I was scared of everything when I was a kid.
I had this weird moment. So in college, every spring break, I'd go to Rocky Point. My buddy had this beach house. It was fun. It was very fun. It was everything you would expect Rocky Point to be on spring break. But he actually like had this nice beach house that was kind of like hidden away, and it was like a perpetual state of drunkenness. But anyway, so I went out on the beach one day. And Rocky Point is beautiful. They have it's like the second world's biggest tide shift in the world.
I've never been.
Oh, you should totally go.
I've never been to Mexico. It's Mexico, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
I've never been to Mexico.
Well, next time I go, I'll hit you up, bro. We'll go party. We'll go rage. Dude. Anyway, so I was like walking down the beach and I saw a flock of seagulls. And the
band?
Yeah, I saw them. Like, yo, dude, can I get your autograph? I saw a group of seagulls. I guess this is the closest thing to an existentialism breakdown I could have as like a raging alcoholic on spring break in Rocky Point. But I saw them like flying, and I was like, if I'm made in the image of God, then why don't I have wings? And I was like, I got like really upset. And I was like, God, why can't I fly? Like, God, why am I? And then I like had this like weird deep epiphany that like struck me like fucking lightning just shot me down into the sand. And like God was like, you are made in the image of a creator. Like you are meant to create. I was like, what do you mean you don't fly? And like a fucking airplane. It's like, and I was like, yeah. And so I had this like crazy epiphany, and he was like, you do fly. You like created flight, just like me. Like I created this. Like I created the seagull. I created this. But you, what are you creating? What are you? And like you are me now. Like of course I'm not a fucking dude on a cloud of 2 legs and arms. Like, like are you fucking idiot? He's like, what do you mean? Like that's what it means to be in the shape of being made in the image of a creator. And I was like, oh, but like I still don't know if that's a teaching in church or not. Maybe it is, but it's something that I took away in this like drunken existentialism moment.
I mean, that's just one of those things where it's just like, you have sperm, bitch, you are a creator.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, that's what they should be teaching in church. Like that's a church that I would go to.
Yeah.
That's the thing that they don't really have a whole lot of vulgar churches. And that's what I need. I need a vulgar, really to the point church. That's what I'm looking for.
Do you want to start a cult?
Yeah, that's the thing. I unironically want to start a cult so bad.
No, you and I want to start a cult.
I have such strong opinions about so many things that I like, and I have such a thing where I have such a fucking stupid Leo leadership complex.
This is it. This is it though. You and I will start a cult, and at the end of every sermon, we'll have like this long, fiery, passionate sermon at the very end. But like, but I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
That could involve in bullshit. I don't know.
I may or may not have searched to look if the podcast name "Let's Start a Cult" exists, and it unfortunately may or may not exist.
Oh shoot, man!
But yeah, no, it's one of those things that I've jokingly like tossed around. Like, that'd be hilarious if I. But the thing is,
there's some money in it, and some like if you get that LDS stuff, man, you might get a bunch of bitches too, man.
Oh yeah, a bunch of bitches.
So your girl, I hope your girlfriend isn't listening.
She's
to this
hilarious.
podcast.
No, she's hilarious. She would think that's so funny. My girlfriend I think my girlfriend is more twisted than fuck than I am.
Okay.
She's really far out there.
So next time she's sound teching for us, she's not gonna like tank our sound.
No, she's so funny. Like there'll be certain things where like I think it and I'm like, that's way too fucked up to ever say. And then she'll say that exact same thing in front of company. And I'm like, fuck.
You just like silently give her a high five. Like, that's my girl.
It's fantastic. She's a fucking psychopath. Yeah, but that's the thing. That's the thing about like So wait, how did you? It reminded me when you were talking to the birds. How? So you said you went to school and you took all kinds of evolution classes and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So how did you reconcile the two? Like, how do you like take all of the evidence and you look at it and you kind of reconcile your belief within that? Everybody does it. The reason I'm asking is because everybody does it differently.
Right. Well, I think Christians who think the Earth was built 6,000 years ago are fucking stupid. So that's.
I had to go to a wedding. I went to a wedding where the preacher was like, or not the preacher, the guy, whoever the fucking, what's his name, the dude that says kiss her. I don't remember, whatever.
Right.
So he was like, I believe that when God created this moment 6,000 years ago, I was like, no.
It was like, let me just slide my stupidity and arrogance in here
I was so, you could hear my eyes rolling. I was so angry when that happened. So yeah, anyway, so how do you like, what's the deal? Like, what's the word on that?
I think that's slowly becoming less and less of like there's like cultural Christianity, and I think that's deeply rooted in cultural Christianity. Just like the fact that you got to be Republican to be Christian is like that's a cultural thing.
I agree with you.
Absolutely,
totally agree with you.
It's not like true biblical Christianity by any means. If anything, it's polar opposite, and they're being led by false preachers.
I completely agree with you.
But anyways,
soundbite.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I pissed off like all Republicans and Mormons.
Who gives a shit?
Like I'm losing all my fans rapidly.
No, you're not.
I know.
How many Mormon fans do you have, really?
How many Mormon Republican fans?
Yeah, how many do you really have?
I don't know, man.
Did you play a lot of shows in Gilbert and Queen Creek?
No, but we just booked Salt Lake this week. Hopefully, we'll find out what Salt Lake thinks of me.
No, you're such a sweetheart. You're not saying anything.
Well, I don't mean this, and I don't mean to knock anyone's beliefs.
You're not. You're not being rude at all.
But anyways, I mean, dude, I don't know if you want to go into evolution because I can talk forever.
Give me the cliff of the iceberg. Let's talk about. I don't look. If you have somewhere to go, then like we don't have to keep going. But like this is what I do.
Well, even from a scriptural standpoint, okay, like all Genesis is written in a poetry format, so it's meant to be like this. Like this guy had like an image, and who was it? Moses who first had it, and then it like not Moses. Yeah, it was Moses, and then it went down the line like word by word by word, and then someone finally wrote it down after like 1,000 years of word translation, and it was all done by poetry. Everyone was like, that's why it was poetry because it's easier to remember. It's easier to retell the story. But this guy's having a vision of how creation existed. He wasn't there. He's like envisioning it. And how the hell would you talk about like microbiology and cell biology and evolution? So we come from like a single cellular organism, right? Like amoebas, like. What can you describe that other than dust? Which dust is cells, by the way. So we come from dust, like that is the word he used. Like it couldn't have been. It wasn't a fucking flying turtle. Like it
wasn't stardust.
It was. Yeah, it was just dust. And I was like, what a perfect way to describe cells. One, if you're gonna use it in a poetry format. So I like looked at old scripture, realizing that it's poetry. It's a vision. It's just like the form. It's meant to like. Explain like how human spirituality and free will and all that came into existence, and like how like it's basically meant to like explain how the world, but not from like a scientific actual perspective, because motherfuckers, we got science for that. Like the faith and science are not supposed to be these like mutually exclusive things. They go hand in hand. You use them
I like
together.
That.
Yeah, and so like the fact that people are like, oh, my science book is the Bible, like that doesn't make any sense. Like so when
my science book is the Green Lantern.
Right. So when people are like, oh, I'm just super super sick, like I'm not going to take any medicine I know like for an empirical fact is going to save me. I'm just going to like pray about it instead, and their kids die at the age of 6 and they get thrown in jail. It's like, yeah, because you're fucking retarded.
Yeah, every time I hear that shit. But you know what? Every time one of those stories, I don't want to derail you, but every single time one of those stories happens and people go, yeah, this is why religion sucks. I'm like, no. That means that those people were assholes. That doesn't mean that all religion sucks.
Yeah, and if you think that's what religion, like I said, there's smart people and there's dumb people on both sides of the spectrum. I can find some real atheists who are the dumbest people on this planet,
I can name like 5 in my personal life.
But I think a lot of like younger people and fall into this trap that like, oh, I've outsmarted religion. Like I'm so smart and witty.
It took 2018 and I figured it out.
But it's like one of the like religion and like politics is one of those things that you can talk in circles, and like you can outwit and someone can be smarter and someone can absolutely romp your ass in a debate and you can romp someone else in a bat, but it doesn't matter, because like at the end of the day, like there's like a truth that we're all trying to seek, and it's like how we get there on our own paths. And so that's why I can't blame anyone for being not Christian. I can't blame anyone for being my own political alignments. Like I can't sit there and think that I have the absolute truth either. Like I have to be wrong. But like as long as I'm like true to myself and like treating people right way and like the basic principles of it. So for me, like Christianity is always just, it is meant to be, for me, Christianity is how I perceive the world. I genuinely believe that a God exists. I genuinely believe that God has a personal relationship and decided to come down in the form of a human to experience what humanity is like. And while he was down here, he had like a good year or two where he explained some shit, but he was like, this is only going to cause a lot of trouble and I'm sorry, but peace. And he dipped out. And then but that is the reality of the world that I live in, and that's how I perceive it. And I take a lot of his teachings, I'm not Leviticusan, I don't sit there and take Leviticus's teaching and like stone people for not harvesting on the second moon of your Saturdays.
Yeah.
I followed a Christian, Jesus' beliefs. Anyways, so I look at like things like evolution or whatever, and it's just not, it's a non-factor. It has nothing to do with my faith because it's completely like, it's so obviously true. Both are so obviously not, maybe Christianity is a little hard to say it's obviously true, but like, but Darwinism isn't. Like Darwin was an idiot. He stole all his ideas. To think natural selection is the driving force of evolution is inherently wrong if you go to any college education. And like the fact that we like completely just make Lamarckian look like an idiot because we were racist against French back in the day and our textbooks hate French people is crazy. So we teach Darwinism, evolution in high schools, and we don't talk about Lamarck in any kind of like granted light. And then and we don't even like give Gregor Mendel like even a fraction of credit due, even though he invented the entirety of the genetics field. So like what we know about evolution even itself is a complete joke. And then I don't know. And
slow down. You're saying a lot of intense shit at once.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
What do you mean? No. What do you mean by evolution? Because here's the thing, I have like things that I've learned. I'm not by any means a scientist or by any means a PhD in anything. But what do you mean when you say that? Like, so to infer that what we know as evolution as a joke? What do you mean by that exactly?
Like this it just hasn't. We don't know enough. There's too many gaps, and most of the gaps
like the missing link. You mean?
Yeah, stuff like that, but it's whatever.
It's Bigfoot.
Yeah, Bigfoot.
I kind of legitimately believe that it's Bigfoot.
Dude, it's so enticing to believe in like things like Bigfoot and Loch Ness and stuff like that. That's a whole other.
No dogma on Bigfoot. I'm down for Bigfoot.
You're
Let's
down
do
for
it.
Bigfoot?
Yeah,
Dude, I used to watch those freaking Discovery Channel shows all the time, like hunting for Bigfoot.
We don't have to get crazy, but you got me enticed with your
evolution talk.
With your evolution talk.
All right. And it's been a while since I've been to school too. But in the eighth edition of the Origin, Darwin put something really interesting in his last revision of the Origin of Man. And what he included is a chapter on something he called gemmules, Gemmules. You can look it up. And the concept of gemmules is that there is some kind of like outside factor influencing our genetic predispositions, which if you look into that completely discredits everything about natural selection. Like natural selection is, if you like were born with a mutation and that mutation was advantageous, you survive. But that inherently, it was disproved like by Lord Kelvin, who was a raging atheist, by the way. Lord Kelvin of the Kelvin cycle, the temperatures and whatnot. Anyways, Lord Kelvin disproved that for a plethora of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons was a theory called reversion to the mean, which is the idea that, okay, so let's say I grew a fucking third arm, and then I go and mate with a girl who's just completely normal and doesn't have a third arm. Well, the chances of a kid having a third arm is still pretty freaking slim, and then for them to date someone who just so happens to have another third arm is even more slim. So that by the time that like that mutation is going to get bred out and go right back to the normalcy again. And so they're really, unless multiple people all have the same mutation at the exact same time, there is no way that mutation is going to proceed to the next. So the whole concept of natural selection is completely destroyed by like the really simple mathematical principle of reversion to the mean, which there's plenty of brilliant more minds than me that can try and explain that away. But here's the thing: in the last 10 years when I was in college, so maybe like 15 years now, there's something that we discovered about genetics called epigenetics. And that is outside of our DNA, which, as you know, DNA is like what codes literally like everything that's expressed, our hair color, our eye type, like our Parkinson's diseases, things like that is all built into our DNA. But what we didn't know is that in order for, the reason is DNA gets coded into proteins go and actually become the building blocks of whatever it is we need. There are things that cause your DNA to expand, to be read and to be turned into proteins, and there's things that contract the DNA so that can't be read. And those things, in a very general sense, would be basically we would just call them epigenetic factors, which is exactly what gemmules would be in Darwin's Origins, which would be exactly what Lamarck theorized is going on in evolution. So from like a microevolutionary standpoint, when you see like things like food impacting like certain genetic traits. So I have UC, for instance. No one in my entire family, I talked about this at the very beginning of the podcast, no one in my entire family has UC, and it's considered a genetic disease. So why the hell all of a sudden do I have an autoimmune stomach disease? Most likely it's something that I ate causing some kind of genetic predisposition, or at this point it's probably just I fucked up my stomach and it's too late. It's probably not even a DNA thing. Mm-hmm. But anyways, this is where I'm saying that we sit here and we praise Darwin like he's some kind of god because natural selection is the way, and we still teach natural selection in our school as the primary dominant force of evolution, but we completely ignore epigenetic factors which express certain genes and which has now been proven to actually be inherited throughout generations. So things like diet can cause genetic defects.
So I don't I'm gonna say now, and like this is the point where I should come in with some kind of with a retort, but I don't have one because I have not learned nearly enough about any of these things.
It is, like I said, I'm so out of school.
No. But I do. But the thing is that I have like so many things to add. Okay, so first of all, for everybody listening, I don't agree with the things that Derek is saying because I don't know any of them. So don't fucking say that I believe any of this shit because I don't know anything about it. So now that that's out of the way, just for future reference, I don't want someone 5 years ago to be like, yeah, fucking.
Dude, 5 years from now, I'm gonna be so wrong.
Matt fucking hates Darwin. Like, no, I fucking don't. So the question that I have then is, why is it that these things are taught as such a no-duh science without any, like...
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's like, so I went to college, and I'm told, like, and my evolutions teacher, who is probably a raging atheist himself, but who like lividly hated Richard Dawkins. He's like, dude, Richard Dawkins is so full of shit. Yeah. And then like he teaches evolutions course, and he's like, of course we're gonna talk about Darwin, but he's like, but let me tell you about all the people that Darwin stole from. And let me tell you about why Darwin is wrong, and let me tell you about the modern synthesis, which is actually developed in the modern synthesis as a theory of evolution.
Which makes sense. I mean, when was the Galapagos stuff that Darwin did? What year?
Dude, it was like 1700. No, not 1700. It was like 1900s, I think.
But okay, a fuck of a long time from now.
Yeah, over 200, 300 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so it makes what you're saying makes sense as far as shit change. Like, we learn more as we get older. I mean, back then people were still completed. We're so idiots now, but in comparison to what we do now, back in Darwin's time, we were complete fucking idiots. So so I do understand the idea of that's the thing with science. Mm-hmm. Science is a series of constant updates and constant changes.
Right.
It's better to have ideas of what's going on because things change all the time. Before you know it, Pluto's on the planet anymore.
It's that search for truth we were talking about, man.
Exactly.
We just want to know it. We just want to get, like, we know evolution's a thing. We can see it.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, how do we prove it? And so then we just sit there and we get so rooted in our beliefs, like, oh, Darwin, you're totally right. Natural selection. It makes the most sense. But it was just proven back in Darwin's time why natural selection can't be the primary driving force. Don't get me wrong. It is one factor. But to think one factor rules the fucking mechanism to turn an amoeba into a human, like, even as a kid, I was like, really? Just that? That's it?
That makes see now that makes sense. The idea that there's more to it, I'm all about. I always believe that there is more to everything that happens. Now, there are things that Darwin has said and done that I absolutely like believe. Like, yes, that makes complete sense, whether he stole it or not.
I mean, natural selection's still a thing.
It's still exactly. You're not by any means saying that it's 100% natural selection resurrection isn't real, because
Right.
obviously it is. But I see what you mean by it's not the only factor, and that you should think more, because that's the thing that like that people who are like atheists, for instance, fucking love saying like, no man, just fucking think. But all of those people are just taking what the people that they look up to at face value.
Right.
All that they're doing, they just have different people that they look up to and have faith in. That's it.
Right.
Like
They have faith in Richard Dawkins.
Exactly.
He's the preacher.
Yes, I agree with that. Like,
Yeah.
Like there's and my point is, everybody's full of shit. Everybody's full of shit.
It's true. It really is, man.
That's an inherent truth of being a person, is that's what happens, and that's okay. And if we can, as long as we can acknowledge that and be self-aware and humble, we can move on, because humility at the end of the day is, to me, the most important thing that you can possibly be. There's people who are fucking assholes, who are not humble or self-aware whatsoever, and those people make me fucking crazy. And I feel like humility is one of those things that's just okay.
And keeping like an open mind too. You know? Like I said, I think it's important when you come to any of these conversations as like an atheist or a Christian or Republican or Democrat, like, or like anything with science based like that, is just to be like be willing to fully listen and accept and try and find the truth in what someone is saying.
I had somebody want to be on my podcast who, when I didn't usually I confirm within like 2 days, like, hey, just making sure, like with you, like I hit you up, like, hey, I'm just making sure everything's happening, like let me know if you have any questions, yada yada yada. I didn't confirm with the person just because it slipped my mind. The week crept up on me. It was a weird week. I don't have any excuses for it. I just didn't catch up with it. I didn't confirm with them like I should have a couple days prior. Because of that, they arrogantly boasted and called me a chicken shit white boy. And called me chicken shit white boy. Said that
I've not had that happen.
Said that I'm a coward and completely arrogant, completely bloated. And that's one of the things where it's like just talking about humility.
What was their thing? Like, what do they want to talk about?
Poetry.
They're a poet.
That's the interesting thing. We should talk about this because hold on. Now, listen.
Shit, am I gonna put a poet on blast?
No. You're not. I am. So okay. Hold on. So the reason I was considering whether or not I wanted to talk about this, but I do want to talk about this because I know that this person has absolutely talking shit about me on the internet right now.
Dude, then you're on your show, fucking kill it, and my show.
Yeah. So
talk shit, dude.
I'm not talking shit, but I do want to, for the record, and I don't believe, and this person doesn't have a base. They don't have any real following, so I'm not really standing up for myself. But I want it put down on recording, my side of what's going on, because they blocked me from everything, so I haven't seen it, but I absolutely know they're talking shit.
Don't give him fans. You probably shouldn't even say his name.
I know. I'm not going to give him... okay, so here's the thing. So, poet who's famous. I don't know if you know who this person is. He's a poet who's famous in the poetry community for being a fucking bully and a dickhead. And he was going to be on my show, and I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I was going to put him on the... You can have some more of mine if you...
No.
I was going to put him on the show because he's very controversial, and because I wanted to hear his side of the story of the controversy. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I typed in his name, and there's a fucking shit ton of articles from the New Times and all this stuff talking about him. Really? I wanted to know, like, what's the deal? Like,
there's a couple girls like that in the scene too. Yeah, Lauren Perry.
This is a guy. He's like a 40-year-old dude, so maybe even older. And so I was like, all right, I'll hit him up, and he sent me his books, and they're good. His poetry is legitimately fantastic. And he sent me all this. His name's Joe Montano III. That's his name.
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah. So, I have to say that because like people are gonna wonder like what the fuck.
I'm sure they're dying.
And here's the thing: he's a good poet. He's a fantastic poet. He's really good. Like, he sent me his books, and I was like, God damn!
You're gonna get my fans like poetry. You can't.
I don't care. Fuck it. Look, here's the thing. Like, and at the end of the day, I believe that he does like, because I'm a good person. I believe he has good work. He deserves readers. I'm not worried about that. There's no beef as far as I'm concerned.
But he called you a chicken shit, man.
He called me a chicken shit. So now let's get into that. So I didn't confirm with him because it slipped my mind. Sorry, not perfect. It happens every once in a while. My schedule this month is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
It slipped my mind.
To you and I didn't even. You hit me up this morning. I was like, oh shit.
Exactly. I'm fucking crazy busy with episodes this week, and he immediately DMs me on Instagram and is like, yo, I'm just, he's like, yo, are you backing out? Don't be a fucking coward. It's worth it to have me on your show.
Damn.
And I was like,
really full of himself.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why you're talking about humility. And I was like, and it is in my notes. I was
For real,
like,
that'd be a great guest, though.
no, it wouldn't. That's the thing is, he's like so full of himself. And here's the biggest thing is,
Some Kanye West shit.
I don't invite assholes into my home. But that's my thing. If I was doing this, I'd have like a studio.
Yeah.
If I was renting and I have a studio, sure. But like this is my home, and that means a lot to me in a lot of different ways. So
it sounds sketchy. Yeah.
It's really sketchy. So he calls me a chicken shit white boy. He calls me a coward. He call all this stuff. And the whole time, I'm just like, I'm being very nice, and I'm just apologizing. I'm like, hey man, like I'm sorry I didn't confirm with you, yada yada. But he's like, and I told him, I was like, hey man, like after he said all that shit to me, I was like, well, I wasn't planning on backing out, but I am now.
Yeah,
like,
now we're done.
I said that, and then he started really railing me, and I was like, look, motherfucker, like you can't expect to do all this stuff.
Did you post the messages online?
I didn't, but I put a big thing on Facebook about it.
I think I saw that. But
yeah,
you should have just posted the freaking messages.
Because I know, but that's the thing is, I'm not petty. I don't want to start drama. Like, and I told him,
I save all my beef.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've never really had beef, and the only reason I'm even bringing it up is because I know that he's talking shit. And there's literally like I have the proof. If it comes to a head, I'll post it. But it's literally just me being like, dude, like I didn't do it. All I did was
kind of funny.
All I did was not confirm, and it's me like being nice. So like. That's the thing. I don't think it's going to come to a head because everyone's written him off and banned him. He's banned in the poetry scene, which is probably why you don't know him.
Well,
He's
that's why the music
completely banned.
Well, that's why Lawn Gnome stopped doing so there's two really famous poets.
Yeah, we're moving on. Fuck that guy. We're moving on. I needed to set this record straight.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Continue.
Don't listen to his poetry.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say it. Now he's going to come after me.
It's good. He's just a dickhead.
It was the Lawn Gnome poetry had the same situation. It had two famous poets. Joy Young, who is a famous transgender queer rights poet who was on Button Poetry a bunch of times, and another girl named Lauren Perry, who's like this like very popular like model, does like this like kind of like darker burlesque type stuff.
Okay.
Both of them like roll in with freaking posses at these like poetry events. Lauren Perry especially has like a huge posse, and like Joy Young just like fucking kills everyone because she's so good. Anyways, so these two girls basically just get in this like massive fight, argument, whatever, beef with each other. They're like the two biggest names at like Lawn Gnome. Like they consistently go on to the like major competitions. And then Lawn Gnome was like, too much like drama. We can't handle this. We shut down our doors. And they shut it down. And like,
whoa, that's why Lawn Gnome shut its doors?
They didn't publicly announce it.
I thought they just didn't like make enough to keep this because it was like
for the poetry.
It was like for the poetry.
Yeah, for the last year of their life, they didn't have because they did these monthly poetry slams.
Yeah.
And for the last year of their life, they stopped doing that. That was why they stopped.
Because I know they were like an anarchist, like no profit kind of idea thing, and I think that's why they closed their doors.
Dude, that whole area is getting so gentrified. I'm sure someone just gave them a fuck ton of money and was like, "Here, we're gonna take your place."
We have Sky High, we have Lost Leaf, and we have Melt.
I love Lost Leaf, man. I bet that place
is great.
Yeah, I shot a music video there once.
Really? Mm-hmm. You're shooting a bunch of music videos right now. Back to business.
Yeah.
You're shooting a bunch of music videos right now. How's that, dude? The music video process can be kind of a pain. How's that going for you?
Well, we our last one got accepted into Vivo, which is pretty great.
Vivo, look at you. And HuffPost named you a fucking... named you one of the most successful artists in Phoenix right now, right? Did they say something like that? Something like that?
I believe that's what you call clickbait. It was written by, okay.
So humble. That's why you're on the show, because you're humble.
It's just clickbait for sure. Well, we had two HuffPost pieces, and the one that most people recognize, the one that came out like a year or two ago, which was like
humility. We had two HuffPost pieces.
Yeah, two HuffPost. Well, one was written by a music viewer. The other one was like a business guy. And so the business guy was the one with a really clickbaity title. And a lot of people got really upset. And I was like, look, like this guy literally read his other blogs. I was like, they're all like this. They're all like top 10 reasons on like how blah, 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 blah.
Got it.
And so I was like, of course he's going to write an article on like why this band is like the most famous band of all time. Like, it was just like this guy who went to a couple shows and liked us and was like,
I mean, it worked. Like, I was like, damn, I did not know that they were the, most successful band in Phoenix right now. Shit.
I mean, it's who you talk to, I guess. Definitely. I mean, it depends on your idea of success. But,
yeah, for sure.
Anyways, yeah, no, we got accepted into Vivo. We're working on another music video that'll probably come out in May. We're probably going to take a different direction. So this last EP, we did something that was way more like So we had written about 20 songs in the course of about a month or so, and we just pre-pro'd it all, and we sat there, and like half the songs were like a style that was uniquely us. That was like, this is, you know, I talked about earlier where like bands like 1975 or like Imagine Dragons come out and then like everyone copies them.
Totally.
But that band just like was true to themselves and found their own sound. So we're like, okay, let's be that band that's like true to themselves and finds their own sound. And that's what this last EP was. It was received really well. It's been getting us really good traction with touring, and the Vivo thing was nice. But now we have a bunch of singles lined up because we pre-pro'd so much and we loved these other songs. The other songs were just like a lot more pop, like way more pop than any other stuff we've done.
And you're a pretty poppy band. I mean,
yeah, we're a pretty poppy band.
Yeah.
We definitely like, you know, catchy choruses, and the thing that like
which is important.
Like again, as a songwriter, the thing that always fascinated me is like, why do people like the songs they like? And like, so I listen to like radio and stuff like that shamelessly because I'm like, okay, well, what about this is making it such a popular song? And so I'll sit there and I'll dissect country music and Christian music and whatnot, because I want to know like, what is it that caused it to become this like so highly consumed song? And so I'll take those elements of like what I think is attracting people, like, you know, like melodies and BPMs and like and song lengths and like basic structures and things like that, and I'll kind of meld it to my own. And so I think we're a pop band in that regard. And of course I add like my own, you know, I play in alternative guitar tunings, and I have like high poetic lyrics, and so I add these other elements that are like, they're just part of who I am as a person, that I just feel like I just represent me. And so I think like infusing like what I know people like with like what I know I like and who I am as a person, and like that's the breaking pattern, and that's the music we write. And of course I hand it off to tons of other musicians who are super talented, with my drummer and my producers, and like we have friends that come in the studio and help us write. I send it off to local musicians like Ryan Osterman and Matt Graham, like all these other they all helped us in the
Ryan Osterman. Sorry, I never look at my phone, but like of all people that you mentioned, Ryan Osterman just
he texted you? Yeah. I think I shout him out every freaking week because he's my favorite musician in Phoenix.
I've never met him. I'm trying to hook up the band that he's in on the podcast at some point. So
I've been trying to get him on mine forever, dude.
Yeah, well, now it's a competition.
Yeah. He's like, wait till I got my new CD, dude. Like, I'm working on a CD. He's like, all right, fine, because he wants to like promote it. And I was like,
they're so fucking good. God damn, his band is so good.
Without shame, I'm friends with many bands.
Holy Fawn is who we're talking about, by the way.
Yeah, we're talking about Holy Fawn, Ryan Osterman. Without any shame, like I'm friends with like so many freaking bands in Phoenix. I will easily say Ryan Osterman is the most creative and the best writing musician in all Phoenix. Funny thing is, no one will argue with me. Everyone will be like, yeah, he's way more talented than me. Like, there's just another Holy Fawn story about how good they were. I don't know. Were you at the show, dude? It was like Sundress, Holy Fawn, bass line.
No, I wanted to go because Troubled Minds was playing. That was the Troubled Minds show, right? The Troubled Minds opened.
They opened it
at Rebel.
Yeah.
Troubled Minds is like that. They are my like in my top 3 favorite Phoenix bands. And
they're related to your band somehow, aren't they?
They're related to our band because Matt Alderwood, the singer of that band, we work with him recording wise, and we were friends with him.
That's it.
The guys in my band, Josh and Austin, used to be in a pop punk band, and they used to like know Troubled Minds back before, because Troubled Minds like were a band, and they stopped being a band, and they started being a band again.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're related to us, and like every band has, especially in a scene like Phoenix, has like their like group of bands that they always play with.
Yeah.
And Troubled Minds is in our like clique, I guess, of bands we play with.
Right. Yeah. It's weird how that works, right? We got close to playing that show with you guys, and we like to try and break out of our clique. But yeah, it's so weird how that works.
Yeah.
You know, there's like obviously like the metal bands who play with each other, but then there's like the really indie bands, you know, like the.
Yeah.
And there's a couple bands that will like move out, like Sundress will move out a little bit. They'll play their house shows with the weird indie bands, and they'll play with us.
I think like Lifelink has played with Sundress before. Like they'll cross paths.
Yeah. But that show was really good. But I was with I was in the middle of like the fans of like watching Holy Fawn getting up close to see Ryan's band, and I was like, there's a bunch of Baseline fans there, and Baseline's like this really young pop punk band who's killing it right now. And so they're really young kids. So that like
they're really young.
Their fans were like all like high school, like probably like 17, 16. Anyway, so I was like chilling with all these like 16, 17-year-old like girls around me, and just like watching the show. And like after Ryan's like first song, and of course he's just like, you know, like just like so heavy, like, but like not in like a metal way, but like heavy, like it just impacts you.
Yeah.
And this girl just turned around to her friend, and like they're right neck, like we're all packed in like sardines. Turned around to her fan, she's like, "Holy shit!" Like, this I did not know this band was gonna be this good,
dude. They were like the band.
like,
dude,
I wanted to like smack her. I was like, "Do you know who this motherfucker is?"
Like, dude, that's the thing though about like bands and that bill especially. Like Holy Fawn,
so good.
Everyone was talking about Holy Fawn that night. All over all of my social media.
They played a bunch of new shit.
Over all my social media.
They stole the show
because it was all it was like Sundress and Baseline are both pop punk bands.
Right.
Chill Minds is like twinkle, emo, punk, pop, whatever the fuck. And then like Holy Fawn is the one real black sheep in the whole mix.
They're the black sheep in the music scene, dude. They don't fit with anyone.
And no one expected, they're like, oh yeah, everyone expected Holy Fawn, all the people who were in all the pop punk bands expected them to be like the slump in the middle of the show. And they fucking ripped it apart from everything that I heard.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was talking about Holy Fawn.
I mean, the whole show is great because then Baseline comes in and brings the energy, and the kids are like mosh pitting like crazy, and then Sundress comes on. Of course, they're pros, you know. They know how to get people riled up.
That Baseline show, because I worked that show at 51 West when they did their album release.
Their fans are probably the wildest.
It was sold out. It was completely like wall to wall.
Yeah, we played with them last year at Rebel, and it was the same situation.
Dude.
We all sold out our tickets. It was like the easiest show I've ever played. Like I sold out my tickets in like a week, and then and I was capped at like 50, and they're like, "Yeah, we got to open up more." I was like, "Okay."
And that's the thing is like I'm so not into that kind of music. Like I'm
pop punk,
so
dude.
not into pop punk, but
Well,
I was when I was like 14, so I totally get it.
It's weird because we're like this like emo pop whatever, and so we're definitely like an offshoot of pop punk. And to me, it was like the weirdest thing out of all the genres to really make a resurgence out of all of it, like pop punk. And
it resonates, man. It's relatable. It makes sense, and it's accessible.
Dude, it blew my mind, And I guess there is a lot of like Neck Deep and State Champs and like all these bands coming out that just like.
I don't know any of it. I stopped All Time Low's. I think the last pop punk record that I think I bought was All Time Low's first record.
Well, you talk to the Baseline guys, and I'm like, so did you guys even like listen to Blink-182 or anything like that? And they're like, nah, we're too young for that. They're like,
really?
Yeah, they're like, we don't like. You talk to them, and they're not even like Blink fans. They're All Time Low fans.
Yeah. I'm very excited.
Yeah, they're into like Boston Manor and shit like that.
I have them scheduled to come on the podcast next month.
Oh, they'll be fun.
And I'm like,
they're nice guys.
I have no idea what to talk about because by the time they started buying pop punk records right when I stopped buying pop punk records.
Yeah, no, and that's why I think I was like, so wait, what do you listen to?
Yeah.
And then they were like telling me their influence, and it was like bands that I listened to too, but not like. Yeah. They weren't like influences. They were just like, oh yeah, like State Champ, yeah, this band's killing it, I guess. But to them, it's like, oh yeah, fucking this band's like the great, like this, like their influence. And I was like, oh, no, I was like in a brand new. They're like, who?
Yeah,
what?
Crazy.
Yeah, the band's old. Like Take Back Sunday, who? They're old.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like what like State Champs and like an All Time Low and shit is to you is like what Brand New and Take Back Sunday was to me. So.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't like getting old, man. Like, I'm not even old. Like, I'm 24.
My birthday's this week.
Yeah?
Thursday.
Fuck yeah. Happy birthday, man.
Thanks.
I'm not going to ask you how old you're going to be.
Yeah, I'm old.
But that's the thing is, like, I just, like, I'm 24, and that's the thing is where I always thought of, like, 20s. I was like, that's your prime. You're young. And I know when I get older, I'll always think of 20s as young. But the thing is, when you're hanging out with artists, you're hanging out with bands, every fucking year counts. So it's like,
I'm 24, trust me, I'm like outdated now.
I'm like hanging out. I'm like talking. Like, there's bands like 0 Degrees North is one of my favorite. They're in our like clique or whatever.
Yeah.
And I love those kids. In my opinion, like they are absolutely doing everything right. And every time I hang out with them, it's like everything's cool and like we're all like hanging out, and having a good time. And like, all right, well, we like Ava, the bass player, like, all right, well, we got a jet because I have school in the morning. And I'm like, oh yeah, you guys have school in the morning. Yeah, fucking, I'm still in high school. I'm only doing half days, or whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck? You're like 17.
A band that's even younger than Baseline is this band called Divided Minds. They're killing it. We played.
Divided Minds is younger than that. Dude, I've heard the name.
I played a show with them. They were like 15, 16 when I played a show with them.
Really?
And I was like, holy crap. Yeah, they're like sophomore, juniors in high school. Where Baseline, they all graduated last year. So they're all like freshmen in college now. And
Who is?
Baseline?
Okay.
Baseline is like freshman in college. Oh, no.
My chair broke. Oh, no.
How did that even happen?
I was kind of fidgeting with it. But.
Oh, well, that's exciting. Yeah, I mean,
bummer, man. I have to get another chair.
Keep
talking. I'm gonna get.
Do you want me
chair.
to just like talk about?
Yeah, just keep on with the point that you were talking about.
Well, anyways, I just remember like obviously I'm gonna sound like super old here, but like when I first came out, I think my first show I was 17. I played at the Modified Arts. I don't know. You might be even too young for that.
Don't know it.
Yeah, it was like this tiny little venue out in kind of by like Lost Leaf and stuff. And I definitely like had that like high school thing going, and then I went to college as a worship leader and had the college thing going. And then like I slowly watched as like people my age stopped playing music and like stopped like caring.
Okay, Tim the Toolman Taylor, that fucking thing.
Dude, that's impressive. And then eventually, and then you just get to this age where either you quit or you just keep going. And
that's what your mid-20s is, right? I feel like your mid-20s is the era where you decide, am I going to keep doing this, or am I going to pack it in and kind of find out what's fun, do something more profitable?
It's really hard to find musicians above the age of about like. I can name like 3 or 4 musicians above like the age of like 25, 26 that are like leading bands. So I think
most of those bands are really popular because they fucking made it and they've decided to keep going.
Yeah, well, like people my age, yeah, it is weird. I won't name ages here.
You don't look old though. You look gorgeous.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's the lotion. Like Ryan's been around for a long time. He was in the main.
Ryan was in the main?
Bro, I told you.
Ryan Osterman was in the main?
You guys don't even know this shit.
Great. So I need to have you write up the questions.
Hold on, I just ruined my podcast and made yours so much better. Damn it.
Sorry, we'll stop. We'll divert.
It's all right. You can take my shit. That was something I was gonna tell. I was talking to him about. Trevor is. Oh, I'm gonna ruin my podcast even more. I'm gonna give you some good information here. Ryan was in Sundress too.
Really? Interesting.
He was in like I think the first Sundress album, which you can't find anywhere. He was the guitar player for, and you can almost hear it because like the guitar playing is like a lot more like intense. And like there's a lot more like lead heavy.
See, I don't know anything. Like Sundress is one of those bands I respect because they're working their asses off in the scene.
Oh, they hustle.
I love them.
So hard.
They hustle like crazy. And Forrest is the only one of the band I've actually talked to. I set up a show with Forrest once.
Yeah, he was in another band too. He was in Twin Ponies.
And well, he's in Adult Feelings.
Adult Feelings.
Yeah. So I love him from the interactions that I've had, and I want to have them on the podcast because they're great and they seem like great people. But again, their music like just doesn't click with me because I'm not into pop punk. Like it doesn't work for me. It just doesn't.
Dude, you gotta give that another try, man. Sundress, they're the catchiest.
I know.
Catchiest band in Phoenix by far, like by a landslide.
Huh? Okay. I'll give it a shot then.
And like, have you been to a Sundress show?
No.
Oh my god.
See, that's
the other thing. You got to go to a Sundress show and then and just see it, like, because it's like going to a baseline show, like. A little bit different because their audience is a little bit older, but equally as like passionate, and like Trevor will just like jump on top of the crowd and like everyone will be singing along because, dude, I think you can only listen to a Sundress song like once or twice and then you'll have like you'll just know every word.
Oh yeah, the only song I know is Beck and Call and I know every word.
Yeah. And like that's just how they are.
Yeah.
It's just a great songwriter.
Yeah.
And a brilliant dude. Yeah, he'd be a great guest too.
No, I know. I requested him to be my friend on Facebook like a year ago, and he never responded to it. It's still just sitting there.
Do you have a dream guest, like not just local scene, but like in general, like who, like if you could talk to any person in the world?
Okay, okay, well, let's keep it on Phoenix because there's a lot in the world. Well, I really want to talk to the guy from Jared in the Mill, the singer Jared in the Mill, because that
band's been killing it forever.
I'm really into Americana and like folk and country and shit. I'm really into that stuff.
Oh, you mentioned AJJ earlier.
Yeah. Well, not even that. Just I'm really into. I think their band's great. Bear Ghost is another band that I'm obsessed with.
Oh, they're so good. I don't know that band at all, but me and my band, like, we try to get them on a bill once because we try to cross out. Like I said, we hate being pigeonholed into like one area of the scene. Like we have obviously like mutual like crossover like bands that just work well with us. And that our fans we know like. But then there's like, it's good for our fans to experience new bands, and it's good for us to get in front of new fan bases. So. We tried to play a show with Bear Ghost once, and I think it fell through. I knew their manager. They have like a manager. Yeah, because they did this. They do the theme song for Homer's Morning Sickness, like on the radio. They're legit. Bear Ghost is one of those bands where I heard that record,
And I was just like, this is a local band? Because actually,
Yeah,
okay, so we were trying to book a show a long time ago. And I texted Mitchell Hillman and asked him, like,
he would be a great guest, too.
Yeah. That was going to happen, but he ended up not being able to do it. Like, Mitchell Hillman's one of those guests who's, like, hanging in the balance. Eventually, he will absolutely.
Dude, I'd watch the shit out of that.
Because he's
a
expressed his interest before, so that'll happen eventually. But I texted him a long time ago. I was like, hey, we're trying to book a show. Who do you think would be like a really cool guest for us? And not guest. Who do you think would be a good band to play with? And he's like, Bear Ghost. And I was like, who's Bear Ghost? And then I looked him up. I'm like, yeah, they're not going to play 51 West with us.
My band is like super nerdy. I'm like the only one who's like not into like gaming or anything. I guess my drummer isn't that much, but
see, none of my band's into gaming. I wish they were. I'm not really, but I want more people around me to be.
Yeah, I tried to get my like guitarist to start a Twitch stream because I think it would be cool to do like video gaming with fans. Not that I don't know if any of our fans play video games or anything like that.
So you're like me, man. You're really like you're you're very industrious. Like you're very like constantly trying to make stuff happen.
Oh yeah, I mean I got this. Yeah, I do the podcast thing. I do the poetry thing.
Same with me. I'm an opportunist. I'm always like, what can I do? What can I make?
I've been working on a novel this year too, which is
good for you.
Crazy difficult, but I've been pumping away. I'm just cranking it out every night. Little by little.
You.
But I like to do a lot of stuff. But I was trying to get my bandmates to do the same. You know, I was trying to get them to start a Twitch stream because I was like, if you're gonna play video games, might as well do it with fans, right?
Dude. You and me, dude, we're both fucking like opportunists. Like, hey, how can I make this some kind of enterprise?
Well, I mean, I was like, I like wine, I drink, I hang out with my friends every week. So what if I just make this into a show? Okay.
I know. It's great. That's my thing. Is I love hanging out with bands. I love talking to stuff, and I love podcasts. Like it was such a. So hold on. So you asked me like dream guests, and I actually
you have a list.
I have a huge Google Docs file of all the bands who are scheduled, all the bands who I want, all the bands I'm talking to, and all the bands to choose from who've like expressed interest, and the bands who like who I really want. Like, who I have like it's called my aiming high section of the list of like the people who I'd really want. Jared the Mill is on there. Robbie Pfeiffer from Playboy Man Baby is on there.
Oh, that'd be so good.
Dude, right? That's the thing. But Robbie is one of those guys who's so fucking crazy. Like he's on a whole other planet. Like,
you know,
Playboy Man Baby.
Oh, what's the Captain Squeegee guy?
Oh, I know. Yeah, right.
Danny.
I'll add that to my
bro,
list.
He's like I don't know if you're Facebook friends with him. He used to like share.
What's his name?
Danny Torgensen.
Oh, I've seen the name before.
Yeah,
okay,
he crazes like the craziest conspiracy theories and stuff.
Okay.
He was like, I think I've had like one conversation with him maybe. Again, you're part of this team so much different than mine, so I don't know a lot of these guys. I just like know of them. But yeah, he's like one of the most talented musicians I've ever seen. Yeah. I've seen them play live, and I also saw him at the Rock Lottery, which is about to happen again this year. Soon.
Yeah, I saw last year. So my favorite local band is American Longspurs, which is the shirt that I'm wearing right now, which is an Americana band, and the singer of that band was in Rock Lottery last year. I think. I haven't seen any of those. I want to. They seem cool.
Oh, they're so good. The year
Have you participated?
I'm not good enough.
See, I'm not even participating either. I feel like, come on, Jeff Taylor, hook me up. Isn't that who runs it? Come on.
Jeff and Steve. I think they look for like multi-instrumentalists, so I think you got to be either like a multi-instrumentalist or like one of like the frontmen, you know? Like the year I went, Jim Adkins was on it. And I was, like Jimmy World. I was like, I would have literally just like fainted if I had been asked to join a band for a day with Jimmy Adkins.
That's awesome, man.
And I think Micah Bentley was on that one. And then like Danny Torgensen was one of them. And you know, Captain Squeegee's killing it always. So.
Dude, someone gave me a Captain Squeegee CD in like 2011.
They've been around for a hot minute.
Like it was the album with like the head on it with all the stuff written in it. And I remember finding out that it was a local band. I think it was crazy. But yeah, I mean, I guess I should probably add them to my list. I have them. I have Takeover and Destroy, who I did not know were local. Like I got into them. And they're like a doom metal band, I guess. I'm really into.
Our metal scene's been needing some revival lately. Man. It used to be like Arizona used to be nothing but metal. Yeah, and now it's just like the last couple of years, it's just like not really any dominant bands.
The only other two bands I have on my list is Takeover and Destroy and Gatecreeper, and they're both metal bands. They're both really popular, and that's an important thing. Okay, I've talked about this before, and I want to see what you think about this. There seems to be a like. When I say like these are the bands in our like clique, for lack of a better word, The indie scene, which is the one which is the scene that I guess we belong in the most. Those are the circles that we run in the most.
Right.
Like, I don't know any metal bands other than the bands that I've searched out or I've met personally, who I've run into and found out they're in a band.
I used to be pretty close with a lot of the metal bands, but
yeah, like in punk too. Like, I only know the punk bands who I've either met or I'm friends with people who know. Like,
yeah,
it's very like. Indie bands, I can name you fucking 25 of them off the top of my head, just in trunk space. But every single time I see a trunk space,
like I can do all the pop punk,
exactly,
emo, pop rock bands.
Yeah, like, it sucks, man. I really wish there was more like converging with each other. I don't know enough.
I try, like I said. I mean, I think Sundress used to be on that indie scene, and they started playing with us a little bit more. And cause we did like 3 shows with them in a year. Holy Fawn was kind of, I feel like, on that indie edge.
They are for sure, but they're way too popular.
Yeah, well now we got them kind of coming in more, and then and likewise we kind of dipped into that scene a little bit too. But truth be told, we just never really took off in terms of like the indie scene. Like our fans usually cap out like around, like we have a lot of younger fans. Most of ours are like ASU, GCU students. Like we have a lot of college age people who support our band are usually like college age, I guess. So not like the super young. Well, we definitely got high schoolers, and we definitely got people around my age because it's like my friends and stuff.
Yeah, I think our Phantom Party demographic is probably like 16 to 27 ish, somewhere in that range.
Right, it's like that, but it's like that range. But then it like for us, it like specifically like the highest demographic is in like the college. Like we definitely got a good amount of high schoolers and like people, drinkers and things like that, 21 up. But it's definitely like this like high college age group, which I feel like the indie scene is usually a little bit older. Then like,
think so, really interesting.
Then I think well, obviously like the bass lines and environment, like
see,
like the,
that's pop punk. That's not the indie scene. I think the indie scene for me is very, very, very all ages. Like I've noticed. I think from our experience,
maybe I just don't good enough.
No. I'm not saying that, but from my experience playing in a band that has not thrived, but done its best within the confines of the indie scene. We do our best at all ages shows by far. We'll go out. We can fucking kill it 1 month at Trunk Space or at 51, and then we go to Rebel and we're playing to fucking nobody. Like
see, I'm like the opposite. Yeah.
Really? I'm jealous.
So we won't really do house shows or anything like that.
See, house shows we can totally do great at a house show.
It's weird. Sundress used to be like that. Not as much anymore, but Sundress used to like play house shows and like pack the ever living shit out of them.
That's the best.
And then they like go play Rebel and like they do okay. Like did more than like most bands, but like they weren't like packing Rebel. Obviously, their last show this past month in December, like totally, it was sold out to the teeth, and I think they're just like a band that's killing it right now. But I do think it's like the kind of people you draw and the people like the fans you draw. Like sometimes I know like our fans in particular like love Rebel Lounge. They oddly love pub rock, even though my band is like kind of not into pub rock.
Yeah, I'm not really that into pub rock either. Like pub rock and the Rogue are the two venues where I'm like,
So I don't like hate it. Like obviously we've done well there. We made a ton of fans
we're thankful,
there. But I just like I love Crescent, but even our fans are like
I've never played Crescent. I want to play it so bad.
Oh, bro, it's like so like the sound is like crystals, man. It's just perfect stage volume. Bad. My drummer actually didn't like it.
Fuck him.
Yeah, I told him. I was like, "Fuck you, dude." They made him share a kit. That's why.
Oh, that makes sense. Drummers are weird. Drummers are really possessive over their shit.
Oh yeah. So he wasn't too keen on that. And then like we played Valley. Valley is a great one too.
I haven't played Valley yet. That's for some reason it just never happened.
Yeah, Valley is a good one. Rebel's our home though, man. I'll play Rebel any day, every day.
Rebel's cool. Rebel, like we had this stink about Rebel because we've played Rebel probably 5 times.
Do they have your settings saved? Gran's
the shit.
Gran has our settings saved in there because we played there so much. They was like, oh, hold on, break about it. Click.
That's awesome.
Sound check.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, the place is great, but we had like bad luck where for some reason it just so happened that every single time we played at fucking Rebel, we always had a bad night. Whether like a drum broke or my bass was broke or my amp was messed up. Like every single time we played there, aside from maybe once, there was always some kind of bad thing that happened. Our drummer choked on a chicken wing in the parking lot. And like almost died.
Oh my god!
So like for some reason, Rebel was this place we always played, but we always had a bummer there. We've had good nights though, for sure. We've had really good shows there. But anyway, fucking look, man. Let's 2 hours. Let's drive this baby home.
Yeah.
You got anything you wanna mention? Anything you wanna talk about? You're excited about? You wanna talk about?
No, man, I'm not really promoting anything.
Cool. Music videos on the way.
Yeah, we got well, we almost played that show with you guys, and then we got asked to do a show in March, so we're probably gonna be announcing that relatively soon.
Cool.
We got a big tour in May, which is like our first time really doing tours, by the way.
Do you guys don't tour that much?
No, like
touring's hard.
I was so there's two things for me. One, I was always like. I grew up in the Phoenix music scene, and like my goal was always to be like a Phoenix artist first. Which is why we're able to shoot the shit about music, like local bands, because like I'm passionate for like every type of music coming out of Arizona. So I was always like Arizona first. We're not going to neglect our hometown. Like if we succeed in our hometown, we can succeed anywhere. So, but now we've gotten to this point where it's like there's really only so much notoriety. In the words of Jesus, a prophet's only a prophet. A prophet's never a prophet in his own home. And so I honestly start feeling like that, where it's like, okay, well, there's only so much we can do here in Phoenix. We really need to like stop being just a local band if we want to be more than just a local band. So anyways, we don't want to be just a local band. We think our music can call for more of that, and like our ambitions are higher than that. So we're finally getting out. But at the same time, we don't want to be one of those bands that tours so heavily that they just never play local shows.
Totally.
Or they only play like really crappy, weird local shows. So, we're trying to like, we'll hopefully have some good shows this year, but we're focused on touring, and we have instead of dropping a new EP, we were going to do a series of singles this year. So our first single.
Smart. That seems that's the tide. That's where people are going right now.
Yeah, we dropped the EP and we were really proud of it, and it got received well. But it just felt like it was like so much like work and hype, and then it was there, and then like the same amount of hype you get for like something like an EP is almost equivalent to what you get for like a single. So I was like, but you spend so much more time like doing 5 songs. Like if I just released it one at a time, I've been like, well, here's January. Now the hype is completely covered for January, and then maybe something, and then like here's one for like March, and just like every
totally.
So I was like, okay, well we're gonna do singles, and again we also like have a lot of poppier direction that we're going, and I'm like like forewarning fans of this, because we were like you said earlier, we're already a pop band, but we're going like a little bit catchier, poppier, sugary, and we'll see how people respond to it. If they don't like it, then we'll go back to what we usually do. Yeah. But we're just gonna see how it works, because it's something that we enjoy doing.
If you like it, you gotta do what you like.
Yeah, and we made a fucking great music video, and I can't wait to release. My buddy from New York, he's like a big videographer out in New York, and he flew in for a week, and we had it was crazy trying to get this video all set up, because we had like 5 or 6 models that had to be in it, and like it was like so many moving parts.
That's awesome, man.
But it was a 15-hour shoot all day. And the video is awesome, so that's coming out in May.
Cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and follow me on the break pattern. You guys know that, but these people here on the microphone don't.
Yeah, and as far as hype and stuff for me, speaking of March, we do have Phantom Party is a show March 10th.
51 West headliner, right?
It's no. That show got canceled.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So it's not even bad that I.
No. Well, we canceled it because we asked you, and then when you guys said no, we asked a bunch of other bands, and none of the other bands could do it. And none of the other bands could do it because they're also trying to book shows around the same weekend. So I was like, all right, well, fuck competing with that. Like, we're not going to – it makes sense.
Yeah, you're going to have a tough weekend.
Yeah. So the next weekend, we're playing with our friends Frequency Within from California, who we've been playing with for years.
Cool.
And then as well as Sad Dance Party and 0 Degrees North and Toso, and another band from California whose name I can't remember. So, yeah, that's going to be fun. That's going to be our first show in 4 months. We're really excited to just – we're going to fucking – it's at the Lunchbox. I want to not be able to breathe. Let's just pack it in, man.
Sling me a ticket when you get tickets.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll it should be fun, man. It should be a pretty good time. So anyway, dude, I had a really special time with you.
This is a good one.
I had a really good time hanging out and talking to you, man. You're a sweetheart, and you're very intelligent and very easy to talk to. I knew that.
It's the wine.
I'm
telling you, man, it helps.
I wrote down a bunch of questions, and I used like 2 of them because I knew, but I kind of knew that this was going to be the one where like this motherfucker hosts a podcast. Like, I'm not gonna have to prepare every single little question.
I don't think I asked you any of mine.
Yeah. So anyway, Dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate the wine, appreciate the conversation.
Not a problem, dude.
Definitely, like, next time you guys are doing something, hit me up. We'll fucking hype it up. We'll have a conversation. We'll have a good time. This is not one of my podcast isn't one of those one and done deals. Do you want to hang out? You got something to talk about? Hit me up, and we'll do it again.
Anytime, let's do it again.
So thank you so much, dude, for being on the show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for listening. I will be back at you next week.
Later, y'all.